Yes.
The lead Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1585 of the War News Stream. And tonight we have absolute mayhem erupting across the Middle East. It seems like things are really getting bad as of right now. But we are seeing that the U.S. attacks apparently have been taking place on Iranian forces near Hormuz today. Very large airstrikes on Iran's coast, and that was just hours ago. We're also seeing that Iran is now striking Kuwait and Bahrain, as gunfire is also erupting at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq. And right now that situation is unfolding as we speak. And also, NATO is now warning of a Russian false flag attack that may be coming soon to start a war with NATO in the next few months. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours in the news from around the world as major developments, absolutely breaking developments, have been occurring both within the Middle East and East Asia also Eastern Europe over the course of this day. We have been able to hear of significant developments within the Middle East, as before we got on air, the Islamic Republic of Iran had just rounded out a new wave of drone and missile attacks against U.S. bases, facilities, and forces within the nations of Bahrain and Kuwait. We also were able to see that those were met earlier in the day by U.S. strikes that were conducted against more Iranian naval facilities along the entirety of the Strait of Hormuz, with significant strikes being reported from Bandar el-Araq all the way to Sarik, largely the coastline of the Strait of Hormuz from east to west. Right now, the United States president is threatening a regime change within the Islamic Republic of Iran, while the Iranians are also threatening that they will conduct such destruction against the United States and its forces, and also create such a grievous embarrassment for the United States that the U.S. would have wished that they had never run into Iran or had never been present within the Middle East, showing us that the rhetoric by both sides is beginning to depart from the peace deals and the negotiations that have been attempted, and it now appears that we're returning back into a state of war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. At the same time, we've also been able to hear that a significant firefight and a major development is now happening within the green zone of the Iraqi capital of Baghdad, as Iraqi special forces and army units have been deployed en masse. Nearly an entire brigade or more have been deployed into the green zone in Baghdad to apparently deal with some sort of an attempted uprising that was either attempting to overthrow the Iraqi government in a coup or to try and attack the U.S. embassy within the area. Significant footage and pictures have come out showing these deployments within the area of Baghdad, and it does appear that the situation is still continuing to transpire as we're live on air right now, and we'll mostly be getting breaking news developments out of that here incredibly soon from the green zone in Baghdad. We've also been able to see that Hezbollah forces or Hezbollah supporters within Beirut are still largely continuing to create a state of civil unrest, or largely what can be described as lawlessness within the city of Beirut, as they have continued their campaigns in support of Hezbollah and against the Lebanese government. Additionally, Israeli air forces did conduct strikes today within the area of the Gaza Strip, and another ceasefire has been entered into between Hezbollah and the Israelis, and the Israelis said that this might turn into something, but we're waiting for someone to start shooting at each other in between Hezbollah and Israel. It's definitely going to be happening within the next 12 hours. We've also been able to hear outside of the Middle East that in the midst of everything going on within that region, in Ukraine, the situation has become what can only be described as absolutely grotesque in what the Ukrainians have been able to inflict against the Russians with their long-range strikes so far. Currently, today is day 2 of the 40-day strike campaign that Zelensky authorized just several days ago that against the Russian Federation to inflict such terrific damage against the Russian Federation that they would be forced to the negotiating table because they would have no other choice. At this moment, right now, Ukrainian FP5 Flamingos have landed and slammed into the Slavyansk na Kubani refinery, largely knocking it out, and we believe that it's going to be rendering the facility inoperable until the next year. And we've also seen that other significant strikes and attacks have been conducted elsewhere throughout the Russian Federation. Multiple videos in the dozens have been coming out from the Russian Federation showing that largely all national logistics have screeched to a halt as of today, as it does not appear that there are any more fuel resources to spread around the Russian Federation or its starved oblasts, which now appear to be in a crisis situation nationwide. We've also seen that the occupied territories, including Crimea, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson, are still in absolutely desperate situations, as Ukrainian long-range drone attacks have been causing even further damage to Russian supply lines, Russian supply forces, and the Ukrainians are now going out of their way to target the Russians' only attempted defense against the drone attacks, the mobile fire groups, and have also been destroying those in large numbers as well throughout the day, still leaving the convoys of supplies stripped entirely of any defenses and leaving them to be destroyed at the hands of the Ukrainian armed forces. The Ukrainian armed forces have also been inflicting significant casualties over the course of the day as well, and have stopped any Russian advances along the entirety of the front. We've also seen that major strikes were landed across the border in Shebekino on significant storage facilities for the Russian armed forces operating within the Vovchansk front, which appear to be jeopardizing. We've also seen that Alexander Lukashenko appears to be missing now and has been inside of Russia for about 2 days. We have not heard of his return to Belarus, and it appears that at the moment either serious discussions are being held between the Russian Federation and the Republic of Belarus about Belarus's potential entry into the conflict against Ukraine, or we are seeing that there is a significant apprehension by Lukashenko, and Putin may be, in a larger effect, holding Lukashenko hostage inside the Russian Federation to try and make him see the Putin side of reasoning and to get Belarus involved in the conflict one way or another. The Foreign Minister of Poland, Sikorski, has also stated that there is a significant risk, as been shown by Polish intelligence, that there may be an attack by the Russian Federation on Poland or other border NATO states on the eastern NATO frontier within the near future. But with all of that out of the way, we have to get into the breaking news that is now happening here on air right now. And Matthew, I see that we have breaking news coming out, and what do we got?
Okay, so right now we have a lot of stuff going on, by the way. So we're going to be jumping from story to story tonight, trying to cover this as it's happening. A lot of stuff's already taken place. We've seen the strikes happen on Iran's coast by U.S. airstrikes. That's been happening hours ago. And since then, absolute mayhem has broken out in the Middle East. We've seen Bahrain and Kuwait come under attack, but we've also seen a developing situation. It's literally unfolding right now at this very minute inside of Baghdad, Iraq. That's the capital city of Iraq right now, in the green zone, which is home into the U.S. Embassy. We are currently seeing videos of what appears to be counter-terrorism forces rushing the residential complex right next to the U.S. Embassy. We're not entirely sure what is going on there right now. We've seen loads of tanks rolling through the streets of Baghdad. Also, a whole bunch of Humvees and military equipment going around the area of the embassy. Something is definitely going down. Right now, it's believed to be that the Iraqi security forces are arresting pro-Iran supporters. That's what's believed to be happening, but there's also some rumors out there that maybe there's a Sunni-backed coup that might be taking place inside of Iraq right now, and they're trying to put that down. Right now, it's really unknown really what's happening, but it's mayhem right now. But Enforcer, can you walk us through this situation? Because I'm getting live updates about it right now.
It appears that at the moment we are getting some form of a Iraqi special forces and military policing action that is now happening within the Green Zone due to an attempted military or paramilitary action that appears to be conducted or was attempted to be conducted by Sunni-backed militias that are inside of the capital. There is a significant amount of pro-Iranian activities and militias that operate inside of the Republic of Iraq, and we do know that a large amount of them operate out of the southern areas of the city, close to the area of Dora and Al-Zafraniya, which we have seen in prior times throughout the years being stricken by U.S. airstrikes and Israeli airstrikes to be able to try and target and knock out top militia leaders within the Republic of Iraq. We also know that some government officials also have significant involvement as well with these pro-Iranian and pro-Sunni military groups, and we understand that at least at the moment, the one thing we can confirm is that one of these groups has just attempted to spring into action, either to conduct a bombing or an attack on the U.S. Embassy within the Baghdad Green Zone, or to possibly attempt a government coup or a government overthrow within the Republic of Iraq against the Republic of Iraq's government to create or form some sort of a Sunni-led dictatorship within the country. At the moment, we understand that Iraqi military forces are responding heavily and have been deployed in a swarm onto the Green Zone at this moment, and this one video here is probably one of the best that we've seen so far of what appears to be some sort of an Iraqi special police or forces team moving in to arrest one of these suspected individuals involved in this situation, and gunfights have also broken out within the capital of Baghdad as well, as we have gotten eyewitness reports of that situation.
Yeah, and it's remarkable. Like, this situation in Baghdad, there is a lot more to this situation than meets the eye, because the sheer amount of tanks, I mean, if you scroll down a little bit, Enforcer, you'll see the picture of some of these tanks rolling through the streets right now, and also Humvees rolling through the streets too. There's one of the Abrams apparently rolling through the streets right there, but there's another picture. Go to the Twitter page and go to the timeline right now, and you'll see that there's an image showing all the Humvees and tanks. There it is right here. I mean, there's a little bit more going on here than meets the eye. This is a little bit more, in my opinion, than just purely arrests that the Iraqis are making. It seems like there could be something worse happening, but of course, we don't know that for a fact yet. But this is a large deployment that we're looking at right now. So the main thing is, though, this is still going on. For it to be merely arrests, whatever is happening is still active at this very moment. And also, some more breaking news. We just got this right now, apparently. The situation with the attacks on Bahrain and Kuwait by Iranian forces is apparently still unfolding, according to U.S. officials. So we had seen that missiles were lobbed at U.S. bases in those countries. Now we're hearing that apparently that is not over at the moment. So we might be getting more updates about another wave of attacks very soon about that whole situation there. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that this is a wild development at this point. We still have some good amounts of information to cover and developments that we've seen in the Green Zone before we even get on into what appears to be continued Iranian strikes against U.S. forces inside of Bahrain and Kuwait. But to suffice to say, at this moment right now, the Middle East appears to have exploded in activity when over the past several days we've seen largely a lack of activity. But it appears that most of this has been spurred by an Iranian attack against a Singaporean-flagged commercial ship, which was hit 2 days ago within the Strait of Hormuz, which then led to a U.S. retaliatory strike against the Islamic Republic of Iran inside the Strait of Hormuz, which then led to another Iranian attack today on another commercial ship that was attempting to pass through the Hormuz, which led to a second attack by the United States on Iran, which happened today in the middle of the day. And now we have seen that the Iranian counterattack has been conducted now against U.S. forces in Bahrain and Kuwait. And we're now seeing that some sort of a major development is happening within the capital of Baghdad, most likely by Sunni affiliated or most likely IRGC affiliated militias, which are now attempting to spring into action to conduct some form of terrorism or possibly a government overthrow within the capital of Iraq. To get us through a little bit more of the Iraq news and the Baghdad situation, considering that we might be getting a lot more developments rapidly out of this area of Baghdad. We have been able to see a large amount of pictures showing that heavy armor units, apparently an armor brigade, has been deployed into the green zone, with M1A1 Abrams of the Iraqi export variant being moved into the area. And we also were able to see one of these rapidly advancing down the street into the green zone in this clip right here. That's about full speed for an Abrams. So they are moving at full clip to just move as many forces as possible into the area of the green zone as quickly as possible, which is showing us that whatever is happening is apparently an emergency situation, and it is believed that there may be significant armed confrontations that are soon to follow because of the large deployment of armored forces within the city. We've also been able to see as well more videos coming out from the green zone, quite a large number of them as a matter of fact, showing more of the developments that are now happening within Baghdad right now live on air. We were able to see what appears to be some sort of a convoy of Iraqi armed forces moving into the area of the green zone on this highway overpass in this clip. A significant convoy, most likely a company-sized element or several companies moving in at a single time.
Yeah, also, I mean, this is a hell of a lot of forces here just to arrest a couple of guys, if that's allegedly what they're doing. I mean, do you really need a whole paramilitary force, or really just the military force itself, to have to roll into the green zone just to arrest a handful of people? That doesn't seem very likely to me.
It doesn't really seem likely to me either. And this is why, folks, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye right now in Iraq, and we're trying to piece together what's really led to this happening. But some sort of a code red has been activated in the Iraqi government for them to start deploying entire brigades of manpower from the Iraqi army directly into the green zone at this point, which is giving us an idea that either a Sunni attempted coup is being conducted, and while we have heard of some limited skirmishes and firefights in the green zone, it may be expected there was a large number of fighters present, and so basically a large battle would be unfolding in the middle of the city, requiring a large amount of manpower. Or we're seeing that they were about to conduct some form of an act of terrorism, or just start causing chaos throughout the area in these IRGC-affiliated Iraqi militias, and for that reason, they still required a humongous amount of manpower to be moved directly into the green zone to be able to deal with that sort of a threat. We're not really sure which of them is true at the moment, and still that part of the story is very vague, and it's coming out in small fragments, but it is a very interesting development to say the least. We've also been able to hear as well in other footage here the movement of more armed forces, including another M1A1 Abrams that was moving through the streets. We also have another clip here, once again showing that Abrams that we already showed before, and then a duplicate of the second clip that we just showed you all a moment ago. We've also been able to see as well of more deployments in the green zone, including that picture that we showed you all recently, and also Iranian special forces that appear to have been on the move in this clip. They appear to be moving in blacked out Humvees into the area of the green zone.
What was that flag flying in the back of one of them? It looked almost like an American flag.
Let's see, I believe that is the flag. That's the flag of the Republic of Iraq. It's red, white, and black.
Yeah, it was blurry the first time. It's clearly that. Yeah, I see it now.
But we see the Special Forces units moving in with their blacked out vehicles, very distinct from the normal Iraqi army, which we've seen in all of the prior clips. And moving us on from that clip to show you all further developments within Baghdad, we've also been able to see that clip as well, largely a duplicate once more. But moving us on into other information that we had, we were able to see this picture, which we've also shown prior, of several M1 Abrams and also Humvees, apparently of the army of Iraq, moving into the green zone and setting up what appears to be a roadblock or a checkpoint in the streets in this picture, or the beginning of one, which may be showing that the situation is incredibly dangerous. And we've also been able to hear as well of special forces raids that were conducted, and apparently we've also been able to get some larger reports at the moment that apparently there has been some sporadic firefights, although we don't have video evidence or audible evidence of that yet, that happened in the green zone between this group that the special forces were moving in against, or the counterterrorism service, and the group that they were fighting. But we did get a brief clip apparently from one of these units right here. It looks like they might actually be using that house as a basing point for further operations in the green zone.
Yeah, it could be actually. But also in the meantime, by the way, outside of the Iraq news we have right now about what's going on in the Green Zone in Baghdad, which certainly there's a much bigger story going on there than we're currently hearing about. But we're also getting some more word as well, just jumping ahead just slightly here, about the attacks that we've seen earlier that were conducted between Iran and the U.S. forces. Apparently, during those strikes, it's being said now that according to U.S. officials, that naval assets were apparently targeted in the Strait of Hormuz from the looks of it. So it's sounds like the U.S. Navy might have come under attack from the Iranians earlier during that attack. So that's pretty big news there.
That is really big news, and we're actually about to be getting into that news right here, folks. I want to make sure to wrap this up with some of the information that we have at the moment, that according to an Iraqi Telegram channel, Naya, they claim that a special source for Naya has stated that there's been arrest of 3 important political leaders in the green zone of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, and a shooting incident did occur within the green zone of the capital. According to a little bit additional information that we got, at least recently, I believe that we have been able to hear that Iraqi security forces have reportedly carried out a wave of high-profile arrests, taking several prominent political figures into custody. Among those reportedly detained is Mohammed al-Habousi, who is Iraq's most influential Sunni leader and a former Speaker of Parliament, which is giving us an idea that whatever is happening in the Green Zone is most likely Sunni-affiliated, considering that he is one of the people who has been allegedly arrested at this moment right now. The reason behind the arrest remain unclear. There have been arrests, and it's believed that he may be one of the arrested, but once again, folks, we're still waiting for further confirmation, and we will be waiting for an official government statement by the Republic of Iraq, as they'll most likely issue a written statement very soon as to the situation that's unfolding in Baghdad and what exactly has gone down. It does appear that everyone's on the same page, however, that at least 3 political figures have been arrested within Baghdad at this moment, with one of the names of the arrested possibly being Mohammed al-Habousi, but we're not incredibly sure if he is one of the people who's been arrested yet. We're going to be waiting for further confirmation on that. Moving us on out of Baghdad, however, we do have to move on to the also incredibly large development that's happening just to the southeast of the city of Baghdad, inside of the Persian Gulf. And we have been able to see that at this moment right now, the Islamic Republic of Iran is still conducting a retaliatory attack against the United States of America inside of Bahrain and Kuwait. Picture evidence came out just minutes before we came on air, showing further air defense activities over the area of Kuwait, and we also were able to get a report from Kuwait just about an hour before we went on air of the following. The Kuwaiti air defenses are currently responding to hostile missile and drone attacks. The General Staff of the Army states that any explosion sounds are the results of interceptions. They also urge the public to follow all safety instructions issued by the Kuwaiti governmental and military authorities during this time, confirming that there is an ongoing attack against the Kingdom of Kuwait, and we believe that the attacks are most likely going to be attempting to target the Ali Al Salim Air Base, which is a significant basing and operational point for U.S. forces within the Kingdom of Kuwait, and also Camp Buhring further on and up in the north, up here, which is also a significant basing for the U.S. Army and other units, which also are based out of Kuwait as well. These 2 facilities have come under heavy attack in prior instances of Iranian strikes inside of Kuwait, and so we would largely believe that attacks are being initiated against those facilities once again. In Bahrain, we've also been able to hear a very similar story that once again, the Bahrainis have come under attack recently, just about 10 hours after they denounced the last round of attacks that apparently did happen yesterday, yet none of the drones or missiles made it into the area of Bahrain's airspace to actually be documented or reported on here on this show. But the Bahrainis did denounce the prior attack from yesterday, giving confirmation that the Iranians did launch an attack, but apparently from what we can tell, none of their drones or missiles even made it close to the impact sites or over the countries that were being fired upon. However, as of this moment right now, sirens have been activated in Bahrain, including in Manama, and the Bahraini Minister of the Interior has stated the alarm sirens have been activated. We urge citizens and residents to remain calm, head to the nearest safe location, and follow updates through official channels. We also saw additional reports that apparently this time explosions have been heard in Bahrain. We are not entirely sure where, but we would assume that it's most likely within the northern area, as most missiles and drone impacts within the area of the Bahraini state usually occur within the northern areas north of Hamad town and in between there and Manama.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, it's believed to be that the targets inside of Bahrain, the main target of the Iranian attack was the Sheikh Issa Air Base, apparently, or the Issa Air Base. It's kind of hard to pronounce, by the way, but it's one that has been targeted several times before by the Iranians. Apparently, this is the location right here, and there was allegedly an explosion heard within the vicinity of this air base, but it's not known right now what the damage is to the spot. But there were explosions heard here, but once again, it could be people hearing the air defense explosions. It could be interceptions that people are mistaking for ground impacts. We simply don't know.
And I would have to say it is a wild situation that is going on at the moment, and this is one of the targets that has been attempted to hit, will be hit prior. And we've also seen that a ridge line within the area, which houses a U.S. radar system that it allows for early warnings of Iranian attacks, may also be targeted as well, as it is very close to the vicinity of the Isa Air Base, which we can see here in the southern part of the island of Bahrain. We've also been able to hear some additional news as well from the area, confirming that 9 drones apparently were shot down after they were launched by Iranian forces earlier in the day, which also shows us that this attack has been going on for hours at this point, at least against Bahrain. We were going to cover this as a breaking news stream and go live when it's happening, but these little waves of attacks are largely fairly sporadic and they happen very quickly. So we're probably going to see a couple of more occurring while we're live on air, but it doesn't really appear that we'll be expecting an endless slew of breaking news coming out in real time like in usual attacks. It appears that the US and Iran are getting back into a wartime footing, which we're about to be getting into in depth once we cover the Hormuz news, which rhymes, funnily enough. But once we get into the Hormuz news, we're going to be covering how the US and Iran are now departing from the peace negotiations and a memorandum of understanding and appear to be returning back to a full-time war footing, because both sides appear to be threatening each other that it's going to be the end of everything because of what's transpired over the course of this day. But before we move on into the Strait of Hormuz, I do want to make sure to talk about what we have been able to hear so far about the U.S. attacks on the Iranian coast that have caused the Iranians to target Bahrain like we're talking about right now. And a lot of people are putting in their thoughts and comments on what the situation is going to be looking like within the next few days, whether full-scale war is going to return to the region or whether the talks are going to be continuing. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so we did see earlier. Also, by the way, have we covered the U.S. attacks on the coast yet? It's probably pertinent to probably get to that first if we haven't.
Not yet. I was gonna save that for the rest of it because I would have to basically cover all of it to get to the poll. So I was want to make sure to get to the poll first because we got like 12 bulletins down there right now.
Okay, well, we're going to get to it in just a second, but the U.S. forces launched significant attacks along Iran's coast near the Hormuz area, which caused Iran to attack Bahrain and Kuwait in response to that, and that just happened hours ago. So, what are your thoughts? Where is this going to go at this point? Because right now we're seeing that mayhem's erupting. There's counterattacks by Iran, U.S. forces attacking the Iranian coast. It's literally a free-for-all at this point. So, 51% said full-scale war will resume in days, and it's pretty much in the cards at this point. 22% said talks will continue and the MOU is still in effect, oddly enough. 21% said it's too early to tell right now. So one thing is clear at this point. For the last 3 days straight, there have been nonstop provocations and attacks being exchanged between Iranian and U.S. forces. So that's for 3 days at this point, which clearly indicates things are heating up and they're not de-escalating. So the Iranians are out there running at the mouth like crazy. The U.S. is now issuing threats to eliminate the Iranian regime. That threat was just made about 2 hours ago by the U.S. president. So, I mean, at this point, I think the ceasefire is not ceasefiring. I think at this point, it might be ineffective, and that's kind of being a little bit sarcastic here. I don't think the talks will continue for much longer because it'll be impossible to continue them under these circumstances. So we'll get to those threats here very shortly and also the attacks, but I think y'all will probably agree with me that full-scale war appears to be back on the menu. And it's weird, though, because we're in a bit of a dilemma here because right now, the Senate and the Congress and the United States is kind of on the fence about whether or not war is approved or not with the Iran situation. I think currently they're kind of in favor of it, but it's really shaky though. So it's kind of a weird spot we're in right now, but I think war's coming. But Enforcer, what say you?
It is a very odd spot that we're in as far as the political machine is concerned at home, because it really could go either way at this point, to where they allow the president to conduct any hostilities without even requiring the approval of the Congress, or you may see that the Congress requires for it to be run through them to give the yes vote or the no vote on continuing any hostilities against the Islamic Republic of Iran. But I would have to say, generally, I would be with the 51%. A resumption of the conflict has to happen. It is an inevitable certainty of the situation that we're seeing, and we will have to return to the fighting at some point here in the near future. And so, going off of the obvious answer, I would say I'm with the 51%. That full-scale war will have to resume within days, or may have to resume at some point outside of the next few days, because it is the only option forward. The Islamic Republic of Iran has shown in all rounds of talks that we've conducted so far during the period of the Memorandum of Understanding that they are not willing to follow through with most any talks with the United States of America in good faith. We have asked them about their nuclear program. They've stated that the nuclear program is how it is. The U.S. can take it or leave it. We've asked them about a multitude of other things, and they've also made the same answer. We're not changing anything of ours. If anything, you give us what we want, and we're going to keep our position as is, meaning that the Iranians are working off of maximalist demands, which would put the United States at a significant strategic disadvantage. And because of that, the United States of America would have to go back into the conflict and would have to continue the fight against the Islamic Republic of Iran to be able to see that the Strait of Hormuz's blockade is eventually broken, and that the United States of America is able to be put into a favorable position strategically to be able to actually round out the conflict, either by a negotiated settlement or by the Islamic Republic of Iran's Islamic regime collapsing in real time due to the U.S. military pressure and also the Iranian loss of the Strait of Hormuz. Either way, the conflict would have to begin again, and I think that as of today, especially what we've seen in the Strait, which we're about to be getting into here in a minute, and the statements that have been made by both sides, it looks like from the publicized statements that we're seeing today and the actions, it looks like we're getting into a full-blown conflict with the Iranians for a second go-around. But moving us on and into the area of the Strait of Hormuz, we have been able to see that earlier in the day today, the Islamic Republic of Iran did conduct an attack against a second merchant ship earlier this morning. According to the UK MTO, the master of a tanker is reported being struck by an unidentified projectile. The vessel sustained damage to their bridge, and all crew were reported safe. No environmental damage was reported at present. According to what we understand, the vessel was called the Kiku, if I'm not mistaken, Kiku, and it was flagged out of the nation of Panama. This is the second strike that the Islamic Republic of Iran has conducted on a commercial vessel attempting passage through the Strait of Hormuz, and once again, the attack was conducted while the ship was entering the Omani shipping lane through the strait and attempting to enter through Omani, well, it will largely exit the Strait of Hormuz via Omani waters instead of the pre-approved Iranian routes. The IRGC did conduct an attack just like they did yesterday against this vessel, and the United States did announce that they were going to be making a response once more. A significant amount of aerial tankers were present within the area, more than could be counted. It was almost a dozen of them, and we did get to see that following this large deployment of these tankers into the region, reports of strikes once again began to emerge on the area of Surik. We've also been able to hear that strikes were also conducted on the island of Kashem and also in Bandar-e-Lenga, which is on the very western side of the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz. According to the reports by the IRIB news agency in Bandar Abbas, they quoted an informed source in Bandar-Lenga. 4 projectiles hit the Bandar-Lenga area at 45 minutes past midnight, and the sound of these explosions were heard in Bandar-Lenga and Bandar Kong. Additionally, we also were able to see that the island of Kashem also was hit as well, and the 3 strike locations was Bandar-Lenga, Kashem, and Surik. We also were able to get
those locations there. Go back to that map for just a second. You were showing of the strike locations real quick. Y'all might notice that those locations have been hit several times. I think Andrew noted this last night when we were going over this on the stream last night. These locations have been hit throughout the war several times over. It's kind of weird they're hitting the same spots again today for the second time in a row. They're hitting those exact same spots. What do you make of that?
I make of it as the prior strikes were actually not successful in achieving their goals of either knocking out these facilities or destroying these forces. Or the other way that we can take this, because there's multiple ways we can take this sort of stuff, folks, because we don't know what exactly it is at the moment. Or they're hitting the same targets that they already knocked out just to save face and to make a show of force without conducting any real, literal damage against the Iranians further than the prior strikes that we already conducted. So it's probably one or the other.
Yeah, maybe so. I was looking here right now to see what the U.S. officials are saying about that. It looks like it appears to be a Fox News reporter actually asked that question to U.S. officials, and allegedly the U.S. officials responded that Iran has reconstituted their air defense forces on the coast, the missile systems, and yeah, here it is right here from Jennifer Griffin on Fox News. The U.S. officials are saying that Iran has brought their missile systems back online on the Iranian coast, and that's why they're striking these sites again. So it sounds to me like Iran's been using this down period here of no attacks and no strikes during this MOU agreement to bring in more missile-based defenses. What it sounds like to me.
Sounds like it to me. And you know what's crazy, man, is I think we said that on air that they were going to be using this sort of a downtime period to be able to rebuild their abilities for the next round of fighting, because it's going to be inevitable, because they're not going to agree to anything that we want or even meet us in the middle. So it looks like the Iranians are doing exactly what we thought, at least according to U.S. officials. There is also another thing that I have to point out, though, about this is that while some of their missile abilities and maybe drone attack abilities have been reconstituted along the coastline, we've never really seen a degradation of their abilities along the coastline at any given point. The U.S. has conducted a significant amount of small-in strikes in literally once-off attacks over the past few months against the Islamic Republic of Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, and amid all of those strikes, the IRGC would pop right back up in the strait and attack as many commercial ships as they wanted in really any number at any time of day, which is leading me to believe that the claims made by U.S. officials that the Iranians have reconstituted their anti-ship capabilities to largely be false, or to try and make it seem like these strikes actually have a purpose and they're hitting something of value. We haven't seen a concerted U.S. air campaign against any Iranian forces inside the Strait of Hormuz that would be significant enough or broad enough to be able to cause damage, to be able to knock out the Iranian anti-ship capabilities and also their ability to protect the minefield that they've laid inside the Strait of Hormuz. I think, if anything, much like we saw with the Sarik strikes yesterday, these strikes today are once again hitting targets that have already been hit before and have largely been knocked out, and just hitting them over and over again on the same spot at the same location to make it look like the U.S. is really hitting something and doing damage, but we're not really hitting anything additionally or causing any further damage than we had already done in the past. That's what I'm generally thinking at this point.
It seems to be the case because also in the U.S. President's Truth Social post that he put out a few hours back, he had stated that the U.S. forces struck Iranian missile, drone storage locations, and coastal radar sites for violating the ceasefire agreement. So those targets right there are the same targets that's been hit in all the prior attacks that we've seen the U.S. forces conduct on the Iranian coast. All of these right here have been hit yet again. So it's nothing really novel. Like these strikes are obviously larger than the last ones that we just saw yesterday, but I mean, these targets aren't exactly new.
Yeah, they're not entirely new at all. And also, on top of that, this kind of goes against the president's own claims that everyone in the media, including us, is just lying to bring him down. Because according to his own claims, all of their anti-ship missile capabilities, their surface-to-air capabilities, their Navy, Air Force, Army, and everything else has been completely destroyed where they don't stand a chance. So I don't really know if that's true. If we were taking the president as saying something is true, which would be quite rare these days, it's a little bit odd for him to say that and then also say that they're blowing up missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites when it's already been claimed that they've done that prior. So that's a little bit odd to me. And I think that's starting to show us that, once again, the Iranians have a larger amount of abilities and have been able to preserve them because of a lack of a larger U.S. strategy to try and target or strike any of these forces within the Strait of Hormuz. And it looks like that's still the case at the moment right now, that the Iranians are still controlling the area. We've also been able to see additionally that a warning was put out today within the Strait by the UK MTO, showing the GPS coordinates and actually marking them on a map of what is believed to be the active minefield. And according to this statement, the maritime security threat level in the Strait of Hormuz has increased to substantial, which is the highest threat level that can be issued by the UK MTO, following attacks on merchant vessels. Mariners are advised of the existence of mines and should expect naval presence as clearance operations continue. Mariners should also expect congestion through transit routes and VHF hailing from naval forces to support free flow. Mariners are advised that the southern route has been expanded to accommodate simultaneous inbound and outbound traffic. transits along waypoints to the following routes have been safely used for passage, which are the following coordinates. Meaning that the area right now, largely if we were to actually map this out, it isn't a circle, it's largely a giant rectangle of a sort that exists between the Iranian shipping routes that have been pre-approved to the north, which have been proven safe, and the Omani route to the south, which is basically hugging the coastline within just a few miles of the shoals and rocks that make up the Omani coastline within this area. Everything in between is still believed to be an active minefield, and we don't really know how many mines are out there even at this moment right now. We've seen that a large amount of IRGC boats during their campaigns have laid mines inside of the strait, and we believe that the number is most likely in the hundreds at this moment. It seems that some sort of demining operations have been conducted by some minesweepers or mine clearers to make the area of safe coastal waters around Oman just slightly large enough to allow for inbound and outbound traffic, but this also ought to be giving many people an idea that this sort of mine clearing operation is as slow as we anticipated. They have only been able to clear out probably about 2 nautical miles north from the Omani coast than they originally had pre-cleared over the past several weeks, which is showing that mine clearing is going at an increasingly slow pace, which is going to be meaning that this minefield will exist for largely months until it's completely demined, even in perfect or ideal conditions. We actually are hearing that more breaking news is coming out at this moment. And Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so let's jump away from the situation with the Iran attacks and also the counterattacks by Iran on the Gulf states. But right now, we are hearing some more details about the situation in Iraq. And it does appear that there's definitely more going on here than simple arrests. Right now, we're hearing that the Iraqi Special Forces are continuing to arrest Iraqi politicians inside the Green Zone. And that's significant because the Green Zone is home to the Iraqi governmental buildings, the government itself, and also the foreign embassies, such as the U.S. Embassy itself. So that's not a good sign right there. Also, apparently the Iraqi security forces are allegedly raiding the headquarters of some of the major Sunni political movements, suggesting that some of these people are being targeted by the Iraqi security forces. So I'm seeing a lot of people speculating that there might be a coup that's taking place inside of Iraq. I want to say that we cannot verify that. I want to make that very clear that we cannot 100% verify that at the moment, but it does appear that it's plausible at least that something of that magnitude could be going down as we speak. So not really sure what to make of it. Also, by the way, we're even seeing Iraqi counterterrorism forces being deployed in the Al Yarmouk neighborhood in western Baghdad as well. These security forces are going all over the place inside of Baghdad right now, and they're arresting people everywhere. So either this is a coordinated operation to eliminate some pro-Iran voices, possibly by the Iraqis, or we could be witnessing the beginning of a coup that we're seeing right here. Enforcer, what do you make of that?
It could be that they've uncovered a plot of a coup that has now failed, and they're acting before the coup can take place because it might have been found out by maybe some sort of a mole or a whistleblower that there were clear and evident plans of a Sunni-led coup against the government, and because of that, the Iraqi government found out that there was only about days left to act, and so they're jumping into action now and trying to pounce on them before they can actually attempt their coup against the Iraqi government, because this situation could be very fragile if they give any time to the Sunni-led uprising or coup attempt, because if they launch their coup attempt first before the army can react, then that means that everyone else is going to be in the confusion and chaos of an ongoing coup and figuring out what's going on, how to even react, and there's going to be really no concerted or coordinated coordination or control of the army at that point, meaning that the coup would most likely succeed. So it looks like they've uncovered a coup plot and they're crushing it before it could even kick off, from what I can tell.
Yeah, that could be. Also, by the way, sadly, I can't show the video here on the stream as it's watermarked by a Russian news source right here. But I am seeing a video right now where you can hear like a gun battle taking place near the Green Zone in Baghdad right now. And that was the gunfire that was reported about an hour ago inside the area of Baghdad near the Green Zone. So a gun battle like that sounds to be a lot more serious than just an arrest. So we'll keep a sharp eye on that. But right now, between the gunfire, the tanks rolling through the streets, the mass arrests taking place, and also, obviously, the Green Zone's in chaos right now, which is usually pretty civil for the most part. This is definitely something to watch, and we'll keep watching it throughout the stream tonight.
I also think we could say clearly that whatever this is a Sunni-led action in Iraq that the Iraqi government's going up against, which is giving us an idea that this mostly has a great deal of pro-Iranian sentiments involved in whatever group is being pounced on by the Iraqi government right now. Most of the Sunni-affiliated population in Islam inside of Iraq largely are very sympathetic or are actively involved in IRGC militia operations within the Republic of Iraq, which has been well documented on our channel over the years. So it looks like whatever was about to be conducted, the Iranians might have been trying to support a pro-Iranian coup inside of Iraq. And actually, it looks like we have even more breaking news coming out right now. So what do we got?
All right, so I had no idea the Iraq story was going to be at the top of our list tonight, but this might be our biggest headline news of the night right now. We are getting word that GPS interference has just started in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad, which is usually a precursor to aircraft activities in the area. So we could be seeing possibly fighter jets become active in the area, and they could be jamming to start those operations. We're also getting word as well from Iraq's news sources here that there's been news of a raid on the home of allegedly the former finance minister, and also it's being stated that there's a complete closure of the residential complex opposite the U.S. Embassy. There is no entry or exit, neither by car or on foot, and absolutely no exceptions at all. So there's definitely something going on. I mean, they're arresting people left and right. It sounds to me like they're trying to take out a political party. I'm not sure who's doing the taking out here, but there is definitely some politically motivated operation with these arrests that's taking place right now. So, Enforcer, what do you make of that news?
It looks like I'm trying to get some information on Taif Sami, because it appears that Taif Sami Mohammed, if this is the name of the person who has actually been arrested, was a former minister of finance within the Republic of Iraq, pictured here, which was the minister of, the financial minister of Iraq up until apparently late 2022, if I'm not mistaken, which it does appear that that is the case. Actually, hold up, wait a minute. Actually, they have been in office since the 27th of October 2022. They're actually still the sitting minister of finance within the Republic of Iraq.
Oh,
So we're not.
wow. It's yeah, it's saying here the former finance minister, so maybe they're saying that like sarcastically or something. But remember, folks, I want to emphasize this as well. By the way, we're currently going off reports that are coming out at the moment. This is all allegedly, by the way. It's being alleged these people have been arrested by some group inside of Iraq, but we'll have to wait for more confirmation to come out. So take it as you will as it's coming in. This is very early, very preliminary, and it's all alleged. So we'll have to take it like that.
Also, I would have to say, folks, that right now this is going to be classified here on the channel as an active coup attempt by most likely a Sunni-led group against the Republic of Iraq. And considering that it's a coup, I have to explain that historically coups are incredibly difficult to follow in real time, and they're extremely confusing. That's also what makes coups wildly successful if they get the jump. Is that everybody in the government in Iraq, if the coup has started, and for some reason this woman who's alleged to be arrested was now arrested by the coup leaders, this could start to become extremely confusing, and this is what leads to coups being wildly successful, is that everyone on the ground in Iraq isn't really going to have a clue of what's going on. They're just going to hear that someone was arrested over here, the army's moving over there, this other group's moving here, there was a firefight in the middle of the city, no one knows what's going on. It's wildly confusing. And so we might be getting a lot of fog of war in our reporting right now because of the confusion that's also permeating throughout Baghdad at the moment as to what exactly is happening. And there's probably only a few people who are in the know on everything that's going on and how it's unfolding in the city. But it is clear that at this point, it looks like there is either a failed coup attempt that the Iraqi government is crushing, or there is a coup attempt that is still in the process of attempting to overthrow the Iraqi government. We're not clear which, but we're going to be classifying this now as an attempted coup for the purposes of the news coverage and also our analysis from this point on. So I hope that does address that the best we can. We're going to be watching this situation very closely. There's probably going to be a lot of rapid updates that come out in the next few minutes, probably over the course of our whole show. And Matthew, do we have any more updates that have come out in the meantime?
So right now, nothing else at the very moment here. I'm just trying to get a grip on what's happening. Also, by the way, I see a lot of people saying we're getting Sunni mixed up with Shia, apparently, the two different factions there. Right now, they're saying it's Sunni. That's what they're claiming is going on right now, is apparently the Sunni. But once again, take that with a grain of salt. There could be a fog of war around it, but that's what they're claiming right now. So we'll simply have to see if it is Sunni or not. But yeah, at the moment, the biggest news is the GPS jamming started in the area. I am seeing some rumors, and take this with, of course, in the context of a rumor, that there's a lot of heightened radioactivity in the area, possibly amongst some of the factions within the area. But we'll have to see with that. Also, I see Enforcer saying Shia is Iran. Sorry. Yeah, Shia is the one that operates in Iran, or the one that is in charge of the Iran regime. They're generally Shia for the most part. And Sunnis generally anti-Iranian regime for the most part. But they're still saying Sunni, though. So I'm not sure if maybe people are getting them mixed up on their end as well, but that's what they're saying.
Well, I mean, if it's Sunnis that are getting arrested, considering, mind you all, that the Shias are actually the ones that make up the ranks of the RGC and the Iranian government. If it's the Sunnis getting arrested, this could be an attempted crackdown by the Shias to try and bring forward a more friendly government in Iraq to Iran. Possibly, it's very unclear at this moment. We know that there's an active coup going on, or an attempted coup that's happening right now. We don't know which it is at the moment, but it is quite a rapidly developing situation. That's all we can say right now, and we're just going to have to keep watching the developments as they come out live on air, which they're certainly going to be, because this has only just started inside of Iraq, basically when we went live, and it doesn't look like it's dying down at the moment right now. Honestly, I really want to put that in the title, that there is a coup going on in Iraq. You know what? Let me change the title here really quickly. I'm going to change it to
I wouldn't change it. I would leave it the way it is for now because I wouldn't change it yet. That might be a little too preemptive.
I mean, it's definitely something. Like it's definitely a coup, or an attempted coup that's happened right now. It's getting pretty obvious at this point. But anyways, moving us on out of Iraq and back into the Strait of Hormuz, to move on into the rest of the news that we were able to get from here, and returning back to where we were, the minefield does clearly exist within the area of the Strait of Hormuz, which is right where we were just a second ago. The U.S. did conduct their strikes against naval facilities around the entirety of the Strait of Hormuz, and we actually did get some footage of this provided by CENTCOM, showing strikes that were apparently conducted over the broader area around the strait. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to geolocate some of these clips, but we're believing that all of them come from the island of Kashim, Bandar Linga, and Sarik. This one appears to have come from the area of the Sarik naval facility. We also see more strikes being conducted right here as well. And that's the end of those. Also, by the way, this clip right here actually shows them hitting for the third time the Sarik Naval Facility with the same roundabout and road at the eastern side of the facility. So they have quite literally, like today even, like to clarify this, man, because we were talking about this a second ago, they have literally hit the same knocked out radar system again. This is the third time that they've hit it on film. The second time being yesterday in yesterday's strikes.
Yeah, it looks identical to me too. I was thinking that when I was seeing it there and glancing over at it, I was like, that looks very familiar right there, and I think it is.
It's identical, actually. This is the only naval facility that I know of that has this kind of profile, and also has a couple of extra support buildings around it, as well as the docks that are very unique. And this is quite literally the very same facility that was hit yesterday at Sarik, with the same radar tower getting hit again, meaning that it's being hit for the hell of it. It already was inoperable from what we can understand from yesterday's strikes and the strikes that were conducted weeks before that. But moving on from that and into the governmental statements from both sides, the President of the United States did make the following statement a little bit earlier. United States aircraft just struck Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites for violating the ceasefire agreement again. It is very possible that they will never learn. There may come a point where we are no longer able to be reasonable and will be forced to militarily complete the job that we very successfully started. If that happens, the Islamic Republic of Iran will no longer exist, which is a direct threat of war and a regime change within the Islamic Republic of Iran, reading it verbatim. We've also been able to see that within the Iranian side, they have made quite a large amount of statements over the day, which are also showing that they are moving away from the peace talks and starting to return back to the idea of war. According to Syed Mohammad Marandi, Iran will not allow the Trump regime to benefit from the MOU unless it swiftly abides by all of its commitments. Netanyahu and Trump are dragging the global economy toward the abyss, according to the Iranian claims. They then went out and made an additional statement today through Ibrahim al-Fakar that directed at the United States, "You miscalculated and our patience has run out, so prepare for a long, endless night," which we're seeing right now in their attacks against U.S. forces in Kuwait and Bahrain. And we also were able to see one last statement that was put out by Mehr News Agency, which is largely affiliated with the IRGC, saying the following. Trump confirmed the violation of the ceasefire with Iran. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, following the blatant violation of the ceasefire and the country's attack on areas in southern Iran, announced that American aircraft targeted several missile and drone storage sites of Iran, as well as the country's coastal radars. So both sides are now stating that the other has violated the ceasefire, and they're getting ready to go in and start going high on the hog, basically, and go in pound for pound against each other into a full-blown conflict once more, which is generally giving us the understanding that the peace talks are not going that well, and it looks like we're going to be getting back into a resumption of the conflict between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America. We're going to be expecting that the Strait of Hormuz will probably be completely closed indefinitely once again here in the very near future, as it does seem that the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States are quite literally back on the precipice of war. And right now, a lot of people are talking about the president's statements that the Islamic regime will no longer exist and the United States has to return back to conflict. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so right now we're seeing the U.S. make some crazy threats toward Iran, and honestly, they're actually kind of warranted at this point because Iran is playing the U.S. for fools right now, making all kinds of crazy statements, all kinds of crazy threats. They're attacking our U.S. bases in the Gulf states. I mean, Iran's doing everything they possibly can to tear this deal apart that favors their regime quite heavily, actually. So just to show you how insane Iran is, they're blowing up the deal that was actually favorable to them. That's crazy. But now the U.S. officials are threatening that Iran's regime will no longer exist if the ship attacks continue in the Strait of Hormuz. So what are your thoughts? 48% said it's simply a scare tactic. It's an empty bluff by the United States. 24% said the U.S. will just continue doing these love taps, as they call them, on the Hormuz coast. And 22% said the U.S. will follow through with that threat on Iran, and it is imminent at this point. So I don't think that threat in its entirety is going to be carried out. The whole no longer will exist thing, that is a very lofty goal for the United States to carry out on Iran. So I don't think it's going to be quite that severe, but I wouldn't call it an empty bluff at the same time either. I would say the U.S. will continue doing these love taps for now, and I would not be surprised to see a full-scale resumption of the war within days or maybe even weeks at this point. So the main situation, the main thing we can take out of this is war is back on the menu. The MOU did not last very long whatsoever, and Iran will not let it last. They're not. They're going to blow it up one way or another, and they're already doing that literally today as we speak. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that the U.S. is probably going to have to return back to the conflict, and they will most likely get to full-blown strikes against the Iranians, because this seems basically what this is. This is basically the same track that Hezbollah and Israel is on. It's just with the United States and Iran directly instead of the smaller players in the conflict at this point. That's what it looks like to me. And the ceasefire deal between Hezbollah and Israel has not been able to stand longer than a couple of hours at a time, because either Hezbollah attacks Israel or the Israelis attack Hezbollah and the entire thing's off and the guns are back up and running within minutes of that happening. And that looks to be what's happening right now, just in a slower form between Iran and the United States, is that both sides are saying that the other is breaking the ceasefire, both sides are attacking the other's interest within the region, and that's going to clearly signal the resumption of the conflict. So I think that it's not going to be an empty bluff, at least at this point, because I think that the track is laid that it's inevitable that the conflict must resume, whether both sides wanted to or not. They're both putting themselves into a position where they can only restart the conflict and try and continue it on to a successful conclusion, either where Iran comes out completely on top and the U.S. can't break the blockade in the Hormuz, or the much more successful option, especially for all of us here in the United States, the U.S. breaks the Iranian blockade on the Hormuz, and then we just start to bombard Iran from afar with our air forces until they eventually relent and start to make compromises compromises with the United States. So that's generally what I would believe is going to be happening here in the near future from what we're seeing at the moment right now. But moving us on out of the Middle East and everything that's been going on here for the moment, we have been able to hear in some small news today that inside of Pakistan, at least 6 dead, including 3 Pakistani Rangers, following a militant assault on a paramilitary facility near to Muslimiyat, Karachi. The Rapid Response Forces and police units have neutralized the attackers and secured the area, and more details were emerging several hours ago of that incident.
That's just what we need. The war breaking out again. I've also, by the way, did the Afghanistan Pakistan thing ever come to an end before, or is it still going on? Because I haven't been keeping up with that one.
It's kind of simmering. Like, I think that's the best way we can describe it. It doesn't look like they've ever gotten into a full-blown peace deal. And every once in a while, the Taliban conducts some sort of an attack across the border, and then the Pakistanis barrage more Taliban positions. So we can describe the situation as ongoing and tense, but it's not an active conflict like we were covering right before the Iran war started.
Well, it sounds to me like it's creeping back toward a full-blown fisticuffs at this point. Sounds like it's getting back to that level. At least right now, I'm sure that'll have a pretty big response to that situation today.
Yeah, it sounds like this. There's definitely going to be some larger actions. Weirdly enough, this was in Karachi, which is also quite interesting. It's not within the Balochistan areas. And to make sure to show you all this, let me put this town name here in, so that way I can show you all exactly where this was. And so let me put that here. And so that was around this area of Karachi within the northeastern area of the city. And usually when we hear of any sort of Iranian or Taliban actions, we usually hear of them within the Balochistan areas. And to give you all a little bit of background, because we need a refresher on this one, folks, we haven't talked about this one in months. The Taliban actually are not that big of a fan of the Pakistanis because the Pakistanis are not Muslims like the Taliban believe they should be, and the Pakistanis believe the Taliban are not Muslims like the Pakistanis really are and the Taliban should be, so they don't really like each other a great deal. So the Taliban allows this little group called the Balochistan Independence Fighters, I believe is what they're called, or the Balochistan Liberation Front, the BLF, to operate from Afghani territory in the south near Kandahar, and they coordinate attacks inside of Afghan territory, and then they sneak across the border and conduct terrorist attacks inside of Pakistan. And then once they conduct those attacks, they conduct a hit and run for the large part, and pack back up, and they run right back across the border into Afghanistan, which gives them a bit of a reprieve from Pakistani counterattacks. But that all fell apart at the earlier part of this year, and the Taliban and Pakistan went to direct blows about that situation, and since then the tensions have remained high. But even still, this attack remains outside the usual parameters of where we see the attacks happening, and that's a fairly interesting sort of a development. But it looks like the tensions are still running high, and casualties are still mounting between the two sides, even in what can be described as a bit of a lull in the fighting. But in the midst of that, we have even more breaking news coming out of Iraq and what appears to be the ongoing coup. So Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so we're getting some more details. We just got an image allegedly showing some people that have been arrested by the Iraqi security forces, and they're saying in the post here from World Source News that at least 15 individuals have been arrested inside of Baghdad, including a government minister, senior advisors, department directors, and members of the Iraqi parliament apparently have been arrested. That's the allegation right now. So if that turns out to be true, it sounds like a segment or a portion of the Iraqi government's being targeted by the security forces. So that seems to support the idea that a coup might be in operation as we speak, because I would imagine that all these individuals couldn't have committed a crime all at the same time to warrant an arrest in mass quite like this of members of the government. So it doesn't seem to be, like I see some people out there saying it doesn't seem like a coup, but this suggests right here that it is a coup, at least in my personal opinion. This is the first time we've gotten suggesting that it's very likely a coup. So, you know, it's up for debate. Of course, some people are still going to probably say it's not a coup. Well, we'll have to see how it unfolds. But Enforcer, what do you make of this new development?
It has to be one of two things at this point. This is either a coup that was about to be launched and it's failed and they're arresting all of the collaborators, or this is an ongoing coup by one element of the government and they're using the security forces to arrest the group that they're now overthrowing. It's one or the other at this point. That's quite clear. Because you don't go around arresting government ministers, senior advisors, department directors, and members of parliament just on a whim. I mean, Imagine this, folks. Imagine that these people, to put this into a U.S. perspective, were names that you knew. Like one day you just heard that the FBI moved in on the Capitol building, and right here, crouched down in the corner, is people like, Ted Cruz or Nancy Pelosi or somebody like that. That clearly wouldn't be normal to have them arrested like that and have them literally in a line out here on the street. Something would clearly be amiss. And this is clearly amiss. This doesn't happen in normal governmental operations. And we haven't seen anything like this happen in Iraq in the 4.5 years that we've been on air covering the news. So this
Yeah,
is clearly something.
I just wonder who is arresting who, because at this point the fog of the situation is still a little bit heavy right now. It's kind of hard to tell who's doing the arresting and who's being arrested. That's kind of the hard part to figure out right now. I honestly can't say with certainty whether or not this is a pro-Iran backed situation where maybe the Iranian aligned people are gaining momentum here and arresting people, or maybe it's the pro-Western people arresting Iranian aligned people. I really can't tell which one it is, to be honest with you. I'm hoping it's not a pro-Iran aligned coup, because that certainly wouldn't be good.
No, that really wouldn't be good. That would be pretty bad, especially for us. That basically, that means that the government that we set up from the invasion of Iraq will have fallen. And at that point, that would be a complete loss. Because right now, if y'all don't know, the Iraqi government isn't our biggest ally in the region, but they still generally are somewhat sympathetic or somewhat friendly, maybe is the best way to describe it, to the United States. That's why you see that a lot of the military equipment being used right now is Humvees and Abrams, is because we provide them a lot of that equipment, because the Iraqi government is generally in a position with the United States where they're friendly enough that we'll sell them weapons. Not the best stuff that we have, but we'll still sell them weapons in general. And so if the Iraqi government falls, and the side that's aligned with us falls, and a pro-Iranian government comes in the charge of Iraq, now we're going to start seeing that the situation is going to be getting a lot worse, because now Iran is going to actually have a large country directly bordering them that basically allows them a deeper foothold into the Middle East and near to our allies like the Kingdom of Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Kuwait, and others that the Iranians could operate directly out of, because the Iraqis will be aligned with them and would give them authorization to do such a thing. But once again, folks, I gotta say, it looks like a coup. I mean, it walks like a duck. It walks like a duck. It talks like a duck. It's definitely a coup. So we don't know who's overthrowing who right now, though. That's the confusion
Yeah.
that is involved in a coup. Someone's overthrowing somebody right now, but we have no clue who they are and what they're going to be bringing into power once they succeed.
Yeah, I was not expecting an Iraqi coup to break out tonight. Certainly wasn't expecting that. Iran's been alluding to making bigger moves in the region to try to put the U.S. on the back foot. Once again, we don't know who's doing the arresting, so it's too early to tell if it's Iran making a move here in Iraq. It's too early to tell with that. But hypothetically speaking, if it is Iran and it's Iran-backed, and let's say it's a Shiite-backed movement that's arresting people right now, that would certainly be putting the U.S. on the back foot, because that means Iraq would be hostile territory at that point. Also, we have an embassy there, to say the least. We heard gunfire near the embassy earlier, just about an hour or two ago, and we heard gun battles breaking out too in the green zone, or at least near it. No, we haven't gotten any official statements yet, by the way, from U.S. officials about this, or any type of U.S. authority whatsoever. They're being largely quiet about this, so nobody's making any official statements. That's why there's so much fog about the situation right now, is because nobody knows what's going on. I'm not even sure if the officials know what's going on yet. It could be up for debate even with them.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Embassy of, oh man, let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find any Iraqi Twitter pages from the government that might say something.
They haven't
Um,
put anything out. I've already checked all those.
Damn, that's crazy. Then definitely something's going on. I mean, if no one's saying anything in Iraq right now, something is definitely going on, because the silence is concerning. Usually, if something like this happens within 20 to 30 minutes, there would be some sort of a written statement like, we're conducting some sort of an action against these people for these reasons. But we're not even seeing that right now. So it's complete radio silence across the whole of the Iraqi government. And
Yeah.
whatever is happening, it's unfolding basically in the quiet of the night.
And I see a lot of people saying that some news outlets are saying that politicians and businessmen are being arrested on suspicion of corruption. That doesn't mean it's an official operation, by the way. That could just be a cover story, and it's not being stated by an official source. It's being stated by news outlets. So they could just be speculating. We don't know really where they're getting that information from. So maybe it's an official government-backed operation against corruption. But here's the thing, folks. When there's a corruption scheme like this, I mean, to go start arresting a huge swath of the Iraqi government government all in one go. That seems a little bit overboard for suspicion of corruption. That seems like that's a lot. That's overkill, to say the least. So I'm a little bit skeptical about that statement coming out in the media about that. It could just be a cover, or it could be completely bogus, for all we know.
It could be that that outlet was actually taken over by the coup leaders and they were told to put out that statement. That happens a lot. I mean, if you want to see that happening in real time, you can look at any African coup that happens when they take over a news station. They literally hijack the network. You've seen this many times, right? I mean, we've seen this a million times. Like at Mali, they'll hijack the central news network for the country, sit down in the chairs and go, we're in charge now and we're overthrowing the corrupt government officials because of bribery and whatnot. And they come up with all of these charges that sound legitimate, but these people are not the government. They're just making it sound like they have a legitimate claim to overthrow whoever's in charge right now. So that could be happening as well with the outlet. Once again, it's a coup. Fog of war is going to be a very big thing in this whole deal, and we're probably not going to get a clear image of what's going on until the dust settles and we figure out who ended up succeeding, either the government that's in charge right now or the coup leaders, and who's going to be in charge tomorrow. Until then, we're probably not going to have a good idea of what's going on in real time right now.
Yeah, I would say so. But right now, that's all of our breaking news on it. So if you'd like to continue with the regular news coverage, we're probably good to go.
All right, folks, and crazily enough, luckily enough, we're basically right on schedule right now. In the midst of all the breaking news that's been coming out, we're still dead on schedule, and we've been able to make it through the Middle East. All of the U.S.'s strikes, the Iranian strikes, all of the actions that have happened over the day, and what's going on in Baghdad right now. So it's now time for us to move on up into Eastern Europe and cover all of the major news and developments that are now happening up here. But before we get on into that news, I do have to say a humongous thanks. We are greatly appreciative to everybody who has been watching so far. We still have a lot of crazy news to go. If you do not leave, folks, because if you think that the Middle East segment is going to be less interesting than the Eastern European segment, or the Eastern European segment is going to be less interesting than the Middle East, it's definitely not. Like, it is without a shadow of a doubt a wild story that's happening up here today as well. And so we're going to be getting into that here in just a minute. But before we do, I do want to take a brief moment to get to talk to a couple of y'all and answer 3 questions from the chat before we get into the groundbreaking news that's coming out of Europe today. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so to get our first 3 super chats and thank the folks that are supporting the channel tonight, and then jumping right back to our breaking news, our first super chat of the night goes to Ken Conaway. And thank you very much, Ken, for that very generous $100 super chat, by the way. And we appreciate that support very, very much, because it's you, the viewers, that keep us going night in and night out for 4+ years here on the YouTube channel. We do appreciate that, Ken. He said, Wedowee, Alabama, and long-term listening and first-time giving, and take one from the chat.
And a big shout out to you and a huge thanks to you for the support all the way from Alabama, our home state. And I got to say, humongous thanks to you so much for the incredible support and supporting the channel massively for your first time ever. It helps us to keep this thing running. It helps us to make this thing possible. And I got to say, a humongous thanks to you for enjoying it enough to make the thing a reality. Many people here on this channel who are watching right now, 22,000 people, are having this channel on air to be able to hear the news thanks to folks like you who go out of your way to do something that nobody has to do, which is supporting the channel. When we run streams, for those who are new tonight, we do not run ads or sponsors on our live streams, meaning that every single time we go on air, every single night, we're not making a cent. The only way that we're able to make a dime, to be able to keep our lights on, pay our bills, and do this as a full-time job, is through viewers like the amazing Ken Conaway right here, who is supporting this channel incredibly and helping us to keep this thing running. And it's folks like him and their amazing generosity, how they go out of their way to support the channel, that make it possible for everybody, whether they're supporting or not. We made the channel as free to play as possible for a reason, and so that way if people did enjoy the channel, they could support it, and if they didn't enjoy it, they didn't have to ever support it. And I gotta say, it's an amazing thing to know that folks like you can enjoy the channel enough to make it possible for everybody here, thanks to your support. And so we will be making sure to take one from the chat in your honor. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so the one from the chat is going to go to none other than Philip Southern, who said, any chance that the Senate is now consulting with the Pentagon in order to pre-approve whichever operations are happening?
There's a bit of a chance, but I feel like Matthew would probably be able to explain that a little bit better, considering that he's the political science expert by degree. So Matthew, take it away.
So, generally speaking, to the way I understand it works, the Senate would not directly liaise with the Pentagon. They would generally look to the executive branch and the president's office to get those updates. So, it's probably not happening that way, it would be my guess. If the Senate needs answers from the Pentagon, they can subpoena people or ask them to come testify in these private committee meetings or in an open session. But generally, not a direct liaison between, or not a direct constant liaison between the Pentagon and the Senate, at least to my understanding. So, I would say probably not.
I would assume so as well, because I was going to say, really, the Senate can only tell the president, okay, we're good with you doing general military actions against this group. You can't, like, they can't get particular enough to say you can bomb this, but you can't do that. As far as the Senate is concerned, because at that point they're largely taking on the mantle of the commander in chief. The Senate largely goes, or the Congress as a whole, goes on the broad strokes of, does this conflict require action? Yes or no? And then if the answer is yes, they then tell the president, okay, we're fine with you doing whatever you need to deal with that problem. And then the president is the one who is charged with the responsibility of dealing with that in great detail. And then he's the one who talks to the Pentagon about the strikes, the actions that are to follow, and whatnot. And then they might report that back to the Congress on the details of what's happening. But that's generally how I'd understand how it would go. So I hope that does address the live chat well. And a humongous thanks to you once again for support, Ken Conaway, for that unbelievable and impressive support. And with that, we have more breaking news coming out right now. So, Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so right now we are getting some brand new information that allegedly there's been more explosions heard by eyewitnesses on the ground in Bahrain just minutes ago, but I'm waiting for more confirmation of that. So I'm seeing here that there's no official confirmation of this, but it's being reported by, like I said, eyewitnesses on the ground in Bahrain that they're hearing explosions in the area. So it could be possible that another wave of strikes from Iran is taking place on Bahrain right now. I've not seen an official announcement of the sirens being sounded, though, which is a little bit odd about that. So take this one for what you will, but right now it sounds like Bahrain could be under a second wave of attacks.
Mr. President, they've attacked Bahrain a second time. Why? But beyond that, I gotta say, we'll be watching that story with great interest. Hopefully, we'll get some video and picture evidence of that to corroborate the story or to disprove it. And so, with that, we're on to the next one.
And moving into our second super chat here, this one is going to go to none other than RCH Technologies. And thank you, good sir, as well, for that generous $50 support. And we do appreciate that very much. And he said, howdy again from Texas, former Army 19 Delta 85-93, and have a cold beer and some tacos on me.
Oh, wow, you were a Hawk missile operator. That's really cool. That's really neat, actually. There's a couple of those still running in Ukraine over there. And I gotta say, a humongous thanks to you for support RCH Technologies. A big shout out to Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. And we do thank you incredibly for your support and helping this channel to keep it running and keeping us on air tonight. And we will make sure to have some tacos on you. I don't really drink a whole lot. I can't drink because of my medications. But outside of that, before I even was on blood pressure medicine, I never did drink any beer or anything else really for that matter. But I do thank you for the support for tacos. I'll have to take that money and put more of it towards tacos because I love tacos. Tacos are delicious. But a huge thanks to you so much once again for support RCH Technologies, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be getting on into all of the news out of Eastern Europe.
All right, and this one's going to go to Corey Weekle. And thank you very much, Corey, for that 50 as well. And we do appreciate that. Very generous of you, and we do appreciate it. And Corey said, longtime listener and lurker, and thanks for all y'all do to keep us informed.
And a big thanks to you for the support, an American lacquer. And I gotta thank you so much for the support, Corey, and enjoying the channel and thanking us for everything we do, because we try our best. We always make sure that the news we're putting out is the most well-researched that we can, that we try and make sure that the information is as thoroughly sparsed, that we're putting the story together with everything that we have, and also analyzing it as thoroughly as we possibly can with a realistic sort of an outcome. And I hope that we've been able to do that pretty well on the fly tonight, because tonight's been a breaking news stream and also a normal scheduled stream all in one. And it's definitely been a lot to juggle, but hopefully we've been making it sensible and reasonable coverage even in the midst of that. So a humongous thanks to you so much once again for the support, Corey, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, folks, it's time for us to move on out of this question segment and on into the rest of the news that we have, particularly from Eastern Europe. We have gotten a lot of significant developments here today, and we're going to be making sure to get into them, starting with our largest one. We have been able to hear that the Ukrainian Armed Forces has started its second day day of its 40-day strike campaign against the Russian Federation, and today the sun has risen on a Russia that appears to be in the process of changing forever. Ukrainian drones and missiles have struck and hit a lot of targets inside of the western regions of the Russian Federation, including one of the most important attacks of the day, which was an FP-5 Flamingo cruise missile attack against the refinery at the city of Slavyansk na Kubani within the Krasnodar Krai Oblast. This refinery here is a somewhat large one and a significant one for the Russian Federation within this region, and it also produces a significant amount of refined fuels as its output. We have seen that this refinery has been attacked in the past several times by Ukrainian forces, but it has been about a year since it was hit last by Ukrainian drone and missile strikes. However, an FP-5 Flamingo did impact the area of the Slavyansk na Kubani refinery and has burned the thing almost to the ground. We'll be showing y'all more of the video and picture evidence that we have in these multitude of clips showing the smoke and raging inferno that's been caused by the impacts of the Flamingo or Flamingos onto this refinery. It appears that the
Also, by the way, that the locals are saying it's a Flamingo strike, but some people are claiming that maybe they misidentified the jet drones, possibly. So it's kind of hard to tell. But the explosion may not have been Flamingos, at least at this one single target right here.
Oh, okay. So it might have been a bar, is just what you're saying.
Yeah, it could have been. They sound similar, like because they both have jet engines on board. Granted, the Flamingo missile has a larger jet engine, but the locals really can't distinguish between the two. They have a hard time telling.
I see, I see. But here's the other clip of the refinery fire. Regardless whether it be bars or flamingos, the damage appears to be quite severe. Moving us on into the next clip, we also were able to see the geolocation of the POV and where they were looking at the refinery, which does confirm that this was the refinery at Slavyansk na Kubani. We also were able to get this last picture here, once again showing the blaze of the refinery, which is quite large. This was one of the biggest attacks of the day, and also ROCH Technologies, I did get confused because I actually quickly Googled 19 Delta because I was like, what MOS is that? And it came up with the first result being, oh, it's a Hawk operator. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I was like, that's wild. I just went and pulled it up again, and every other search result, rather than the first one, says it's Cavalry Scout. So big apologies to you there. But outside of that, it does appear that the Slavyansk na Kubani refinery's hit was the largest one as far as damage is concerned for the day. But we also were able to get follow-up information on the strike that was conducted in Volgograd against the factory that was stated to be involved in defense production for the Russian armed forces. The factory has been blown to pieces by this two-hit Flamingo strike that we saw yesterday. We were able to confirm that 2 Flamingos appear to have hit this factory, with a 3rd Flamingo apparently hitting somewhere else inside the city, which we haven't been able to get picture and video evidence of yet. But this is the remains of the Titan Barakati defense plant in Volgograd. The Barakati defense plant within northern Volgograd, seen right here, is a fairly significant one. Actually, hold up. I don't think that's it. Hold up. Let me make. Here it is. This is the Titan Barakati defense plant right here, just a little bit further north than the metallurgical plant. This facility was fairly important, as we were told that it apparently produced a significant amount of equipment for the Russian defense sector. And also, we were able to see a little bit of additional proof here of the hit here in this clip, showing the FP-5 Flamingo slamming into the factory and causing the damage that we just had the aftermath picture of just a moment ago. Here's that video.
Damn.
Those flamingos have got a punch.
Yeah, I would say so. That's wild. And what was this location again that was hit?
This was the Titan Barakati defense plant. Apparently, it was involved in the production of some sort of propellants, motors, and things like that for missiles, from what I was able to find out.
Yeah, it's a serious hit when that thing goes up. It almost looks like an oil depot going up, but it's just purely the explosives from the missile.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the damage of that. It wiped out the entire assembly floor.
Yeah. Yeah, really, it severed the steel or mangled everything. It looks like a hurricane or a tornado got a hold of it. But yeah, it's a devastation there for sure.
Like, the roof collapsed, the walls were bent outwards from the explosion. I'm guessing that everything on the assembly line down on the floor has been destroyed as well from the explosion and the fire. I mean, that quite literally knocked out an entire factory with 2 flamingos. The whole factory. And this is the whole factory right here. I mean, there's such a large part of the assembly line and also the production processes that have been completely wiped out by yesterday's attack, that this factory will most likely be inoperable indefinitely because of the damage, most likely to the critical machinery and machining works that were inside of the building, which will render the entirety of the system inoperable. So a very successful attack from yesterday. We've also been able to hear that outside of Volgograd and elsewhere throughout the Russian Federation, that there was another strike, another alert more so, that came out of the Kerch Bridge area of drones that were flying in the area. We also were able to hear that within the area of Simferopol, it appears that there was another attack on this city, which we were able to see a brief clip of right here.
Ага, прикольно, спасибо, хорошо.
Not really a lot to speak of. We heard the boom in the distance, but that was about it. There was also an additional report that the Saki thermal power plant came under attack, and there were 16 explosions with flashes of light within an hour, which is leading people to believe there was a multitude of drones that flew to the facility and then exploded onto it. There's one of the explosions right there. Moving us on from that, and that power infrastructure hit, the Ukrainians also hit and destroyed a bridge near to the town of Rozdolny within northern Crimea. And this is very interesting. This is also showing the systematic campaign by Ukrainian forces to destroy every single bridge that they can. Rozdolny is not on a major highway. The bridge near Rozdolny, I believe, is somewhere on this roadway right about here. I believe it's very close to the town of Rozdolny. Actually, this is the one right here. This is the bridge. So we can see that this bridge was knocked out, and it looks like the Ukrainians are trying to knock out and destroy every single bridge from the Armyansk and Chanhar Gap and then working their way on south. So if the Russians even get one bridge operational, say at a major choke point like Chanhar or Armyansk, those trucks are then going to have an even further difficult time making it to where their distribution points are in Crimea, because most of the bridges leading to those areas have also been destroyed as well. So the Ukrainians are systematically ripping apart every single piece of critical infrastructure in the entirety of Crimea, one bridge at a time, one power plant at a time, one substation at a time, one fuel depot at a time. The situation is already desperate as is, and even though the Russians are able to restore some of their key supply corridors or arteries, we're going to see that most of the capillary supply lines, where the supplies are distributed to their final endpoint, are also not operable. Therefore, the supply situation would still be dire in most of the peninsula. We've also been able to see, moving on out of Crimea and on into the western area, or the heartland of the Russian Federation, that there was also a significant Ukrainian attack that was conducted on the town of Shebekino. It appears that from the footage we were able to see right here, some sort of a jank, and I mean jank, fuel warehouse was targeted and destroyed by Ukrainian drones today, which is what led to the major fire we saw in the other pictures that we're about to show y'all. We now see that the fire had started by one of the original drone impacts, and more drones started to flock to the scene to also hit and further spread the damage at this pretty jank Russian military fuel depot.
Honestly, it's kind of hard to tell if it's really like uniquely jank or not, because everything in Russia looks jank as hell. It's like, everything in Russia looks like it's been pieced together out of like junkyard parts when it comes to their military industry out here. So, some people say that missile strikes improve the look of the place, how janky they usually are.
Man, this sign actually says, stop. Like, bro, like, no joke. Like, it says, the O was actually blurred out, like painted over or something, so you can tell the paint doesn't match right there. But that literally would say "stop" in Russian. I mean, I bet you the Russians in that facility are begging, "Stop, please!" Oh man, and I mean, this thing turned into a burning inferno. It was seen all the way from Belgorod today. But to show y'all a little bit more of it, there's the original start of the fire, and that's what it looked like later on the day, all the way from Belgorod, which is about 20 miles north up the road. We also were able to see this clip as well, showing the fire once again filmed from the city of Belgorod. And this additional clip as well.
Man, this audio right here is so crispy, I could literally hear the fly buzzing past the mic.
Man, they have that high-end microphone. Good thing they got it before the sanctions, because I bet they can't get that kind of quality anymore. Those Baofangs, they just don't really have that kind of quality built in them. We also were able to see that Gubkin was also hit as well in North Belgorod, with some sort of smoke rising here as well, although it's unclear what was hit around Gubkin. Gubkin, which is an absolutely goofy name for a town, is a smaller residential city within the northern area of Belgorod Oblast, near to the mines that exist between there and the town, the larger town that is, of Stary Oskal, which we can see over here. We don't really know what was hit in the field surrounding it. It might have been an air defense system, because we don't really see anything else of any strategic value that could have been hit and burnt within the area of Gubkin. But moving us on out of that town within northern Belgrade, we also were able to see the map work of the Ukrainian drone attacks that were being conducted over the day, which we've already started to cover right now, with missiles and drones and their flight paths being documented here on the map. A large amount of them once again went towards the Moscow area, but it looks like most of them skirted around the city and started to head for targets even further east inside the Russian Federation. We haven't heard of the impacts on those sites yet at the moment, and those drones might still be in the air making their way to their targets. They're pretty deep inside of Russia, and these drones only fly about 70 miles an hour, so a target 700 miles in Russia is 10 hours away by the speed of that drone. It also appears that we just got, actually, speaking of which, while I was talking about that, it looks like some of the drones have finally just made it past Moscow to Yaroslavl, and it appears that Matthew is getting news of that while I was just saying that right now. So Matthew, what do we got?
So speak of the devil, but in this case, speak of the Ukrainians. They've just arrived in the city of Yaroslavl, and they're bearing gifts. And the gifts have arrived, and the gifts were dropped right on top of the Yaroslavl oil refinery. Oh my! But as you can see, though, in our picture here, Yaroslav is that smoke plume you see out there in the distance in this picture right here. And Yaroslavl has been hit multiple times over. It's a very crucial oil refinery for the Russian Federation. It's one of the largest and most strategically important petroleum processing plants. It's over 700 kilometers of the Ukrainian border, and this is a critical place that they could not afford to lose right now. It looks like it's been hit again. It's hard to tell exactly what has been hit on the location of the refinery. It could be a main condenser. It could be the main stack. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's definitely been hit, though, from what we can tell. But Enforcer, what say you?
It looks like the Ukrainians are still going on their 40-day campaign. This is now day 2.5, mind you all, of the 40-day campaign to bring Russia to its knees. And we've already seen that the Volgograd military factories have been hit and destroyed. We've also seen that the Slovyansk-na-Kubani refinery was hit today and largely knocked out or destroyed. And now we're seeing that the Yaroslavl oil refinery, one of the largest in the Russian Federation, has also now been hit as well and might be in the process of getting completely knocked out. Let me go pull up Russian refineries list here really quickly. And let me see if I can get, let's see here, a list of them from their largest to their smallest. So, let's see here. Let's see here. Anyone got the stats on that? Oh,
It's
dang.
the fifth largest refinery overall in the Russian Federation. So that's by oil refining capacity, by the way. It apparently, according to what I'm reading here, it processes about 15 million tons annually of primary crude right
Dang.
here. So that's why it's the fifth largest. I believe the largest refinery in Russia as a whole, I believe that's isn't that the Omsk refinery, I believe?
Let me pull it up. I want to make sure before I say it. Largest refinery in Russia. That would be, let's see here. 1 second. I want to go. I don't want to use the AI answer. That thing would be full of shit. But let's see here. The United States, Russia. Where's anything in Russia? So Russia. Oh, damn. Let's see here. Hold up. I gotta go. I gotta go to Russia. Try and find the information here. It's the Antipinsky refinery, apparently. Let's see. It's one of the largest. It's not the largest. So that's not the biggest one either. I actually don't know where the biggest one is. I'm still trying to find that right now.
So I'm pretty sure that the Omsk one is the largest by capacity. I think the Omsk refinery does about 20 million tons a year, I think, or something like that. So it's one of the biggest. Those are very large ones, by the way. Yaroslavl is huge. Omsk is huge. Ryazan's a big one. There's several big ones, including the Moscow refinery, which is currently, no longer, in functioning order, thanks to the Ukrainian attack that took place about a week ago. So yeah, this 40-day period is about to be really painful for Russia. I'm not sure how they're going to survive it.
Actually, yeah, I would say the Omsk refinery is definitely the biggest because this is the biggest one I've ever seen. I mean, like, I have to zoom out basically to the level of seeing the city of Omsk to even look at the size of this thing. So this probably is the biggest one just by size alone, which is kind of crazy because if you go to, like, Shreveport, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, actually, you can actually see a fairly large refinery here. which isn't as big as the one even in Omsk. It's like half the size. So a little bit interesting with that to see that that is the largest one. Maybe the Ukrainians might be able to eke out the range to hit it, but it is very deep in Russia. I mean, extremely deep in Siberia. But moving us on out of that bit of news from the Yaroslavl area and the confirmation of the hit there live on air right now, we are also hearing that sirens are once again sounding in Bahrain, and it looks like another round of Iranian drone and missiles are now entering the airspace, attempting to attack the U.S. bases and possibly Bahraini facilities that are inside of the country. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and giving y'all any developments on that situation once we're able to get them. Moving us on from that, though, and on into Moscow, we were able to see that Ramenskoye came under attack. Oh, well, actually, not. It didn't come under attack. There was just a long fuel line here today. An endless one, as usual. We also were able to see outside of the Moscow area that we have been able to get some information on the possible coup attempt or the mutiny that was about to be conducted by a so-called Alexander Lunin. Apparently, according to some reports we've been able to get today, it looks like many sources are starting to state that Alexander Lunin apparently has been arrested by Russian FSB authorities and is going to be spending 11 days in jail while they try and figure out what they're going to charge him with. That appears to be the statements that are coming out from multiple sources. We have two of them that are largely repeating the same story from people inside of Russia, and we have been able to confirm that the FSB did ransack his house looking for anything, flash drives, computers, any sort of communications or internet systems, and have apparently seized all of them in the ongoing investigation against him. To remind many who may not have been here yesterday for this, Alexander Lunin made a video where he stated that the treatment by the Russian government of the Russian soldiers was absolutely unacceptable, and either Putin was going to meet with him within the next 48 hours, or Alexander Lunin and his men were going to turn their guns against the government and start to overthrow Putin and the Putin regime. Not long afterwards, we were able to see that that went viral on social media in the Russian Federation and gained something akin to over 10 million likes, which is more than 10% of the Russian Federation backing his statements and also supporting him in his claim, which got significant public attention. The Kremlin took credit that the threat was given to them, and then we saw that the FSB started to react immediately. We saw that Alexander Lunin tried to back off of his claims, and since then, it appears that nobody has been able to communicate with him, at least according to word that we were able to get earlier today, and it looks like the FSB may have actually arrested him. Right now, a lot of people are saying, as usual, that this guy is about to get the window treatment, and I would not be against that sort of an idea as far as what's going to be happening to him, because we've seen that many of people who have done far less than this have gotten the window treatment in Russia. So a lot of people right now are wondering what is going to be happening to Alexander Lunin and the mutiny that it looked like it was about to be conducted, now that it seems that he's gone radio silent and the Russian government may have pounced to make sure that this coup or mutiny could not be even attempted by Lunin and his supporters. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about this situation right now, and what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so this guy's whereabouts is really not really that certain, really. Some people are saying he's been detained for 11 days. Some people says that he's gone missing. Some people says he's already deceased. Nobody's really sure what his state is, but he's certainly not free from the looks of it. All the allegations are is something has happened to him, and that was obviously to be expected. But what has happened in your opinion? 47% said Russia might have done something really bad, if you know what I'm getting at. 45% said Putin will lock him in the gulag, and 4% said he'll probably be let go soon and just simply let free. And, you know, when this guy came out and made the allegations and allegedly said he was going to try to, like, go do something to the Kremlin, everybody pretty much knew what was about to happen after that. That wasn't too hard to predict. So I would imagine it's probably true. He probably is in Russian custody, at least right now. They'll probably try to put him on a show trial or something. And then after that, who knows what the hell is going to happen after that. You know, I'm not sure if Russia would so blatantly dispatch him, if you know what I'm saying, just saying the wide open like that. But, you know, Putin has done worse stuff to people over the course of time. I mean, for example, Prigozhin, I mean, his plane crashed, and it was a very strange plane crash, to say the least, and it took out him and his buddy, Utkin, on the plane. So Putin doesn't put up with stuff like that, and he's probably going to make an example out of that guy, so that way other people don't follow suit behind him. He'll probably try to make an example out of him, so it's probably going to be quite severe. But Enforcer, what say you?
He might end up going out from a headache, polonium T, a blood clot falling out of a window, a heart attack, spontaneous combustion, spontaneous explosion. There are many ways that the Russians take people like this out once they start to pose a threat to the government. And now that he's gotten a significant amount of social media notoriety in Russia, they can't let him back out because a lot of people are going to rally around him. And then they're going to try and possibly do something still in support of the guy, and also looking at how weak the Russian government would appear if they released him. So they're clearly going to be probably taking the guy out. That's what I would say. I'd be with the 47%. He's probably too dangerous to be put back out in the public or probably in prison, at least in Putin's mind. And so they're most likely going to dispatch him to make sure to make an example of him and stop other Russians from trying to imitate his actions or his footsteps to lead him to where he is right now. So I would be with the 47% for that reason. But moving us on out of that news in Moscow, we've also been able to hear additionally that the foreign minister of Poland has also been stating that there are significant warnings once again that calamities and conflict could be occurring between NATO and the Russian Federation in the near future. As according to the foreign minister of Poland, Sikorski, Russia may be preparing an operation under a foreign flag to attack NATO. According to his direct quote, Russians may organize some operation under a foreign flag on Russian territory to get a pretext to strike one of the NATO countries. So right now, the foreign minister Sikorski of Poland is still saying that there is a significant threat that at some point Russia may fabricate an incident to justify a strike on NATO, or that they may try some sort of hybrid strikes on NATO to start a larger conflict with NATO forces. It's, of course, a still concerning situation, and we'll be seeing if the Russians ever follow through on that. There is a decent chance that they might. We've also been able to hear that the Prime Minister of Serbia, aka Chudjak, Alexander Vucic, has stated that he will resign within weeks, paving the way for an early general election.
Can we see the meme up close?
Let's see. Hold up. Let me go get it.
No, it's right there, man. It's right there in front of you.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Man, that's something else right there. I think that it's kind of hard to tell. This could be the original version. I can't tell if it's the altered version or the original, but it looks pretty accurate.
Man, dude, I thought you were gonna be like, get the meme of like the Chud Jack. Like, I gotta go show you all this. So here is Alexander Vucic, and then here is the famous Chud Jack Soy Jack meme.
Yeah,
The resemblance is uncanny.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about all that, but to go back to that first meme though, that first meme right there, yeah, this is the one right here I was laughing at. That I think this is pretty good right here. Honestly, y'all know Lukashenko is currently in Russia. He's currently hanging out with Putin for the last 2 days straight, which is kind of odd to say the least. So I think Lukashenko might be getting a talking down to, or possibly something maybe worse than that. It's kind of hard to tell, but I don't know if Putin's grabbing him quite like that though. That's a little bit out there.
Man, I mean, the way Putin looking at Lukashenko in this poster, if that's how they're hanging out right now in Russia, Lukashenko might be enjoying a nice kielbasa dinner, and I'm not talking about the sausage. But outside of that, we have been able to see that at the moment, Lukashenko has largely disappeared into the wilds of Russia. Just about a day or two ago, he actually departed Belarus to fly to Moscow, or to fly to Valdai to go talk to Putin. I don't really know how they're hanging out in Valdai, though, because that's where some people say they're at. The dacha has been bulldozed, so I don't even know what they would be doing there, because there's not even a house for them to be in. It's nothing but support facilities now. But somewhere in Russia, Putin and Lukashenko are hanging out right now, and it looks like, from what we can tell, Putin is trying to get Lukashenko on board with supporting the war against Ukraine by either getting the Belarusians directly involved in it, or having Belarus allow Russia to base and operate on their territory for an invasion into the northern parts of Ukraine. We're not entirely sure what angle the Russians are working on at this point with Lukashenko, but it looks like he might actually be stuck in Russia, and Putin might be almost holding him hostage to try and make it agree to whatever Putin is wanting to do, and use Belarus as a vessel for Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine to some extent or some form. We're not entirely sure what's going on with that, and we're still going to be figuring that one out, hopefully over the next few days of news that we get out from that situation. But outside of that, we don't have much more than the fact that Lukashenko went to Russia, and no one's really heard of him at the moment after he got there, and he hasn't left and come back quickly, which is also somewhat interesting. Moving us on from that, though, and back into our attacks inside the Russian Federation, we did get to see that air defenses were active around the town of Lipetsk. It's literally the quietest noise. It sounded like some sort of a surface-to-air missile way off in the background, miles away, but it did occur. We also were able to see that there was damage to the Voronezh plant as well, as satellite imagery has shown the consequences of the cruise missile strike on the JSC VZPP Voronezh plant of semiconductor devices in Voronezh. We had covered the strike a good while ago, and the damage that was caused by a couple of FP5 Flamingos that hit the semiconductor factory within Voronezh, and the satellite photography is proving that the damage is greatly extensive across the whole of the facility, and it looks like most of the factory has been knocked out. Now, moving us on and out of the Russian Federation and on into the ongoing war in Ukraine, which we've seen some very crazy developments out of today as well, we have quite a lot of frontline news to cover, a decent bit for the larger part, or largely just Ukraine news to cover. But before we get to that, a lot of people are wondering what's happening with our boy Lukashenko, his rotundness. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that right now? What are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so what do you think about the situation here that Putin is now holding a second day of closed-door talks with Lukashenko somewhere inside of Russia? Nobody's really sure where they're holding these talks, but they're closed door, meaning that they're obviously not open to the public and the media can't see it, which is a little bit telling in itself. But what do you think's going on? 62% said Putin is likely threatening Lukashenko to do what he says, which is probably join the war against Ukraine or else, while 30% said Putin is merely trying to talk him into it and just having a good old persuasive conversation, like normal men do, and 3% said it seems like a normal meeting. And there's nothing normal about this, by the way. The moment I heard a second day of closed-door talks with Lukashenko in the whole midst of the situation of the threat of Belarus possibly aggressing against Ukraine, I almost knew immediately what was happening with this. Lukashenko's in there probably getting run through the ringer. That's my guess. Lukashenko could be possibly saying, look, we don't want to join. And who knows what the hell Putin's saying back in response to that. Right now, with Lukashenko in Russia, he's at Putin's mercy, to say the least. So 2 days of closed door talks, something's up. Something is big time up. I'm saying I think Putin's trying to convince him, but who knows how he's trying to convince him. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd say that he's probably threatening Lukashenko. I would be with 63%. I think Lukashenko's caught between a rock and a hard place where he really doesn't want to enter the conflict because he knows that that's going to be a pretty bad outcome for Belarus if they try to enter the conflict in support of Russia. But he also knows that if he doesn't enter the conflict, then he's in between a rock and a hard place with the Russians, with Putin particularly. So he's in a pretty bad spot right now. And he's probably trying to see if he can just find his way out of it, because it's going to be easier to just get the Russians to back off of Belarus joining the war than it would be to stop the Ukrainians from blowing everything up in Belarus. But I have a feeling that Putin's not taking that too well. He's probably saying, look at me, you fat bastard. Who made you? I did. Man, like he's probably doing that at this point. Who kept you from falling to NATO? I did. I mean, he's probably doing that whole deal and probably threatening him that he has to join in. Otherwise, the Russians are going to start trying to screw the Belarusians over. And Belarus really has nobody to turn to right now. But before we move on into the rest of our news outside of that poll, it looks like we have more breaking news coming out right now. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so we have a little bit of breaking news coming out of Iraq yet again. So let's jump back down to the Middle East here for just a second. We're currently getting a video showing that the situation inside of Iraq is still ongoing right now, whatever the hell is happening there. Helicopters are now being seen flying over the area of Al-Qadra, Iraq. Also, we might want to get a geolocation on that and see exactly where that location is, because I'm not really familiar with that spot. I think is that a suburb within Baghdad?
Let me check. This is, man, the way people always spell everything on Twitter, it never pulls it up on Google. It looks like it is. It's this little suburb right here in western Baghdad.
Okay, so that's also earlier where we saw some of these security forces deploying. They deployed to that neighborhood as well. So it looks like they have helicopter support that's been brought in too. So, I mean, if they're just arresting people, why the hell do they need helicopter support, military helicopters? That's kind of a bit of a strange thing. I mean, what are these people, like armed, paramilitary combatants? These people are allegedly ministers in the parliament and also, members of parliament, stuff like that, and members of the government. So it's not like they're, I would assume they're probably not armed combatants, unless maybe I'm just not familiar with the way Iraq rocks with their government. But Enforcer, what do you make of that?
I don't know what to make of it really at this point. I mean, this whole thing is insane. It's I'm still of the thought it's definitely a coup. I mean, that's what's got to be going on. It's either failing or it's succeeding. Who knows? But here's the clip. Those are two UH-60 Blackhawks, most likely of the Army of the Republic of Iraq. flying through the suburb. This guy added his own comment at the end. He went, "Wuss." Man, honestly, real. I gotta say, I agree completely with whatever the hell that meant. But moving us on out of that news in Al-Qadra, Iraq, and what appears to be still the ongoing developments of a coup or a failed coup, we have more news to cover back in Ukraine. Moving us on into Ukraine, we have been able to see that over the day, the city of Kyiv has come under attack once again by the Russian Federation, and we got some brief clips of that attack right here. And there was one of the air defense impacts. We also were able to see another clip showing Patriot air defense interceptors being fired over the city and impacting the missiles that were flying towards Kyiv. You see those explosions in the sky still. We can see another Patriot being fired. And we can also see what appears to have been an impact on the ground right there, with more Patriot missiles being fired one after the other at an attempt to shoot down the incoming Russian missiles. Moving us on from that clip, we also were able to see the smoke rising from some of the impacts that unfortunately did land within the city of Kyiv. Moving us on from that, we also were able to hear that according to the owner of, or the co-owner of Firepoint, which is a major Ukrainian drone and missile manufacturer, if Belarus attacks, all critical infrastructure keeping Lukashenko in power will be destroyed in the first hours. That was according to Yaroslav Stillerman, who is the chief designer and co-owner of Firepoint. A fairly large claim to make that Belarus would be destroyed in the opening hours. But considering how successful Ukrainian attacks have been against the Russian Federation recently, there might be some possible credence to this. Or it might be more so a bit of an embellishment, although there's definitely not any lack of teeth to this threat. It might be a bit of an embellishment just to make it clear that the Ukrainians are going to be going all in against Belarus if they do join in the conflict against the state of Ukraine. But moving us on out of that little bit of news, we also were able to see that today, the Firepoint fellas brought us into a factory that builds flamingos. And we're going to have to mute that for music reasons, but we can see all the nose cones right here of these Firepoint flamingos.
That's where they put the explosive, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where they put the bomb.
Damn, that's a big deal right there. That's kind of hard to believe they can fit like 1 ton of explosives in that warhead like that. It's kind of a compact space for a ton.
It kind of is, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, you know, if a person was that size, they'd probably be pretty heavy too. You know, that's like fitting a whole Lukashenko up in that thing. You know, you could hardly fit a Lukashenko in there, and he's pretty heavy. We see them continuing to show the nose cones. They're about to show more of the factory here in a minute, but they got to show us these nose cones a great deal. We now see them showing the fibers that they make the body of the missile out of, the oil that the guy lived in Dune, the movie, Dune 2, actually.
Oh, so they make the nose cone out of what appears to be fiberglass, and they put the resin over it, which I think is normal for fiberglass. I'm not really like a materials expert, but it appears to be it's made out of fiberglass. Oh, look, is that the motor?
Yeah, that's the engine, the jet engine on the missile.
I've seen people work with fiberglass before. That appears to be, it looks like most of the missile might be made out of fiberglass.
And now they're showing the handiwork. The precision that's involved in making these missiles. It's a work of passion by the Ukrainians. Look at them. The care that they put into it. And now the finished product. See the directional controls work? They're now building the wing structures. They even have paintings to inspire them, showing the St. Basil's Basilica on fire. Oh, well, that's a motivational. And the Kremlin wall is also busted down as well.
Man, Firepoint, they're not playing around, man. They got the posters on the wall. They're not playing around.
Man, they said rise and grind. We got a Moscow to burn, bro. Like, let's build missiles. Man, I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of wild. We see them showing more of the missile. I mean, honestly, this was a really interesting video just to watch from the construction and production side of things in their factory on how they actually build these, because they actually showed a great deal of the entire process from start to finish of how they build a flamingo. We now see them looking at the tanning bay that they use to tan the missiles. You know, they got to be nice and good looking before they hit a target.
It's hard to believe that what you're looking at right here is basically a slight from what I've heard, slightly degraded from a Tomahawk's capabilities that the U.S. manufactures, which costs a hell of a lot of money just for a Tomahawk missile. This Flamingo accomplishes almost the same type of objectives a Tomahawk would, with the same type of warhead, a little bit larger of a warhead actually, for only a fraction of the cost. I think these cost about $500,000 a piece, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, these are great value for the money when it comes to military spending.
You can build 3 flamingos for the cost of 1 tomahawk.
Yeah, I think that's doing it better. If a country like Ukraine can get the cost down on building like essentially what's their version of a Tomahawk, it makes you wonder why the U.S. can't get our costs down. That kind of stuff is, I would imagine, we're buying in bulk. We're Ukraine's buying in bulk too, but they don't have quite the buying power that the U.S. has.
I think it's an economy of scale sort of a thing that does get the price down a good bit, and also I think it's just production efficiency, and the lack of bloat in these companies that also cuts it down a good bit as well. Because when you think about it, if the Ukrainian government says we want you to build these things in perpetuity as quickly as you can, and we'll just pay you for them, the economy of scale makes their price a good bit lower for that reason, because they're going to be able to guarantee work and therefore make the
Oh, you
price a little
think?
bit lower. Yeah, for a larger part.
I mean, if people were like really truly, having competition, maybe they would be that way. But I don't think I'm not accusing one U.S. company, by the way. I'm just saying across the board. I think if the U.S. companies had a bulk order, I don't think they would discount it. They'd probably keep it at the exact same price just to make a little extra buck.
Well, no, actually, historically, they do price them by the bulk orders. Like if you look at some countries that buy the F-35 and they buy larger numbers of them per unit, the F-35s are actually a few million cheaper. I think if you look at some countries that buy, say, only 30 of them, the price per unit is actually a little bit higher because the batch number is higher or lower, which allows for them to give a bit of a discount because of that economy of scale type production.
Maybe so, but whatever the case is, I love the flamingo. It's probably my favorite weapon that Ukraine's fielding right now.
Man, also the launch is incredible. Honestly, watching that, it's like that's crazy to think that missile can stay in control in that sort of a violent takeoff.
Can a Tomahawk be ground launched like that?
I don't think it can. I think that we started to like research ground-based TEL launchers for them, but I think all Tomahawks have to be actually launched from a ship in the Navy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I remember there was a huge debate back in the day about whether or not the U.S. would give Tomahawks to Ukraine or not, and a lot of people were like, "Well, they don't even have a way to launch them." And I was like, "Well, kind of a fair point." So yeah, I guess they found a way to do that with their Flamingo rocket assist.
And when you see him standing next to this trailer, he's like, "You see, this is the truck trailer that launches it. Look at the quality." Man, they got those straps, like those ratchet straps that like truckers use. It sounds like I ratchet strap it down and get it on out there. That's it. It's pretty
Really,
easy and efficient.
it looks like Iran's like mobile launching trailers. It looks very similar.
Yeah, it really does, actually. Might have gotten some inspiration from them, maybe. Man, look at them handle that carbon fiber. I know you love that. Man, Matthew loves carbon fiber, by the way, folks. If he sees carbon fiber, he's like, whoa, carbon fiber. So I bet you he's loving this section.
I love carbon fiber.
You know who else loved carbon fiber?
Who?
That guy with the Titan submersible. He loved carbon fiber.
Every material has its limits. Like, just because carbon fiber is strong and lightweight, you don't want to necessarily take it down to like the albatross trench at the bottom of the ocean and test and see how strong it is. Especially when your life's on the line, you probably don't want to do that. But it looks damn nice in supercars.
Oh, it does. It does look good. You see them showing. I don't actually know what part this is. This doesn't look to be a part of the missile. Looks to be a part of something else. Maybe the launcher, the TEL that it's carried on. You see them now working on what appears to be some sort of a wing structure, possibly. Maybe. Oh, it looks like they're going into the baking room where they heat them and cook them. It's not much longer. It's not much longer. But it's AMSR. It's Ukrainian missile production, ASMR. It's beautiful. You see them showing more of the parts being baked. Really impressive sort of a process. I mean, this is missile production at an industrial scale, and apparently the Ukrainians have several of these factories which are working around the clock on 24/7 shifts to be able to try and build the maximum number of flamingos that they can. And I think right now that's about, what is it, Matthew, 3 a month at the moment?
Oh, what, 3? You're saying produce 3 flamingos per month?
Yeah, like wasn't that the last number that we heard? Like roughly, it was like 3 a month.
Oh, no. Oh, no, it's definitely a lot higher than that. It's, multiples higher than that at this point. I think it's somewhere in the hundreds.
Well, hopefully they put them all to good use. So, like, moving us on from that, we've also been able to see in the location and notes a couple of wild clips. First off, we were able to see that many Russians who've already been wounded in combat are still being forced to remain on the front lines, like we can see here. Kind of a bit inefficient to take these kinds of folks and keep them on the front. It's not like they can do anything, but the Russians want to keep them here for no reason. Moving us on from that clip and on into our next one, we also were able to see a Russian tank hitting an anti-tank mine today. Would y'all like to see a tank fly into the sky?
Yeah,
Here
let's
we
see it.
go.
Let's see it.
Oh,
That was false advertising. It didn't fly into this guy, man. That thing disintegrated.
let's see here. Let's watch it again. Well, I mean, parts of it flew into the sky.
Man, that thing right there went up like that popcorn cooker. Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Some idiot outside just decided to do a little burnout, but really nice. I'm gonna go out there and have to have a word with him. But so, you've seen that meme of that guy, the Chinese fellow with the popcorn cooker. You know how they have
Yeah,
like those
yeah,
like
that
really
guy.
pressurized popcorn cookers? Yeah, they like pressurized and blew apart. This thing did the same thing as that popcorn cooker.
Yeah, it did actually. Yeah, like now that you reminded me of that, it did. Moving on from that, we also were able to see some new Ukrainian ground drones. These things are called the Protector unmanned ground vehicles, which are built to be able to carry enough supplies that on a single supply drop off, they're able to provide enough supplies for a single squad for an entire week. And we actually see this one just tanked a Russian FPV drone and kept rolling. But y'all are about to see why it could do that here in a minute. There's another one of the Protectors coming down the road. These things are unmanned, by the way.
Oh wow, it's not playing around either. Don't get in the way of that thing.
I mean, look at them. Dude, they're sick. That is so wild, man. Like, the Ukrainians are automating everything these days.
Yeah, it's really cool. The part to me that really wows me, like with this whole automation process, is not necessarily making the vehicle remote controlled, but the fact that Ukraine can monitor and control like a huge fleet of vehicles all from one interface, like with the artificial intelligence. That's the part to me that blows me away, how they can manage all that all in one display.
It really is. Like, honestly, man, there's so many things that they do these days that are really impressive. And also, we got to see the casualty report. And holy moly!
5 Bobcats today. 5 Bobcats went the bad way, went out a real ugly way, but tell us more.
And according to Miss DC, keeper of the records, the June troop total is 35,660. This is the highest since April of 2025. 488 auto and fuel tanks is the fourth highest daily loss. And the correct AFV total is 24,835, and our artillery total is 44,857. 11 ground robotic complexes were destroyed on the Russian side today, which is tied for the fifth highest, which unfortunately is not shown. But over the past 24 hours, we were able to see that 1,350 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed, along with 12 APCs, 488 supply trucks, 1 main battle tank, 58 artillery pieces, 1,951 drones, 3 MLRSs, 3 cruise missiles, and 5 Bobcat skid steers. All in all, a very good thing to see, and quite a great day. Moving us on out of that and on up into the area of the Kupiansk front, we also were able to see the Ukrainians clearing out those Russian positions in the 101st Guard Brigade of the General Staff of Ukraine. They got that rock music playing as they chuck a grenade into a Russian basement and teach them that basements are no fun. We now see him getting a second grenade ready. I'm popping that one in. Look at him. This guy must be a LeBron James the way he's hitting these three-pointers. We now see him popping a couple of rounds into another basement where the Russians might be at, keeping them low. And there goes a third grenade. Teach the boys a lesson. They didn't ask for seconds, but they got seconds. Call that stuff a serving, because the Russians are getting justice served to them on the front every day. Moving on from that, we also were able to see another clip from this area, also showing the 14th Mechanized Brigade conducting drone attacks against Russian supply trucks, Russian positions, and Russian soldiers. Or as they're called in Russian, Ruski Soldat. You can see another one getting hit. And another one. A Mr. B, bliat. It's an artillery piece. We could see a Garmata getting hit, which is an artillery piece, along with a Sklad, which is a vehicle, I believe. No, actually, it's not a vehicle. It's a Russian position. We can also see another Russian position being targeted and hit. The position is now cooking after the fact, and the Ukrainians have already found another Russian dugout and are also hitting that one as well.
Also, by the way, just a quick update out of the Middle East while we're watching this Ukraine footage right here. There's apparently been explosions that have been seen in Bahrain, apparently. So it looks like some of the incoming Iranian projectiles might not have been shot down. But I don't know the locations that have been hit. We don't have any video evidence of it right now. But we are monitoring, though. So the Gulf stays still under attack at this moment.
That is good to hear, Billy. We're so happy.
That's not good.
Actually, I'm sorry, man. I was trying to look at something else right there. That is not good. Like, that is generally not good. So we'll have to be keeping an eye on that and seeing what's coming out of that as far as developments. But moving us on down and into the area of the southern front, we have also been able to see a Russian supply line that was also coming under attack today, and we were able to see this from the Russian soldiers' point of view. Oh, we hear them laying out gunfire as the Ukrainian drone is coming on in. We see this guy's shotgun is jammed, and it jammed again after 2 shots. We hear the drone getting closer now, and it jammed again after the second shot.
I like how the guy almost threw that driver. He almost threw that guy out the front of this windshield, like when they stomped on the brakes. That first guy almost got thrown out the front of this thing.
Yeah, he almost got launched, like, straight out, jettisoned.
Show him that segment again. I gotta see that again. That dude almost got thrown right out. Like, man, they almost like snapped the dude's neck off, like doing that right there. That dude right there had whiplash.
I think the bar of the windshield like slammed into his nuts because his head was like flinging around like he was in pain, bro. He's like, bro, watch him, look. Bro, look at his head, bro. He was like flinging around like he was in searing pain.
Also, whatever this vehicle is right here, no ABS apparently on it. The thing's skidding to a stop. Like, there's apparently no anti-lock on this thing.
I don't know what that is. Like, that thing's been so butched, like, into, like, a Rodnik. I don't know what that is. Like, it could be a Lada, maybe, but it's so far disfigured, it's hard to even tell. Also, I see a lot of people going, oh, man, Enforcer was uncovered, oh! I was actually looking on Twitter as well for the news when Matthew was talking about that, and I was like, yes, that's good. And I like wasn't even thinking, I was just giving an automatic response because I was reading an article myself, and he was like, that's not good. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, I was like, no, it's not good. So that's what I was actually doing as well, because I was like, what the hell's going on? And I was trying to keep an eye on it as well.
Yeah, make sure you don't go to the check it like on your end because it messes me up on my end trying to check it. So you just stick to being the main host, man. You stick to being the main host.
But man, oh well, man. I guess I suppose I'm pretty sure, man. That we talked about something on this and keeping an eye on. But anyways, moving on from that. We see them now getting back into the low car and now flying down the road again. Apparently the guy who was up in the front got dropped off and then picked up again at some point. Here's some of the Russians. We see their vehicle was knocked out. They're now on the way further. Another drone attack is happening, so now they're hopping out of the vehicle once more. All this on one supply run, mind you. Now he's freaking out and running for the bushes. Oh, and the car was hit. And the car is cooked. It's even tilted over to the right a little, like the suspension got blown apart.
Damn. Oh my god.
Oh.
Dang. Man. Honestly, I mean, it kind of looks better without that bar, like the dude almost tripped on when they stomped on the brakes right there. It actually looks kind of better.
Man. Oh my god, that's terrible. So I has to film it to put it up on Reddit. Oh, and the AKM survived. Yeah, bro, he said, "Oh, my AKM," and then he went and grabbed it. It actually survived the attack, crazily enough.
Поехали.
Now that they're throwing it in the back of the other car that did survive, but now another drone is coming in. Their time might be nigh. Looks like that one might have been warded off. And that is all the adventure of a Russian just trying to drop off a little bit of supplies to a frontline unit on one trip on one single day, and they have to repeat that every single day to get any supplies to the front. So y'all can imagine how impossible it is of a situation for them to be in it. What? Hey, yo, what the hell did you write in the chat, man?
Huh?
Bro, what did you write in the chat? You said Ruski F?
Ruski Blyat. Yeah, Ruski Blyat.
Man, man, you're about to get us fined by the people who run the broadcast. Man, like in America, I forgot their name, the FCC, I believe. But anyways, moving us on from that, we also were able to see more Russian forces getting hit and their supply lines being blasted in the Zaporizhia area. This is the Ukrainian POV of these strikes.
Also, Terry Alia said the extension ladder being in the middle of nowhere is wild. I have no idea where that extension ladder came from. That was a pretty like high-end extension ladder they had just like laying out there in the middle of the brush they were hiding in that last clip. I'm like, I don't know where the hell that came from. It's like, what are they doing with an extension ladder? It's like, isn't that for like roof repairs and stuff? They got it out here on the front line with their climbing stuff.
Well, you see, they bring it out there for repairs of the Russian mine because it, like a roof, usually leaks.
I guess maybe so. I mean, I doubt they're out here doing home repairs. Like, I think the Ukrainians are crushing the roofs.
Man, I think they probably are. I mean, no doubt about it. And the Ronin unit also did their part against the Russians today. This guy. Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I forgot. This is the clip. Hold up. Let me. There we go.
Oh, we're gonna get copyrighted
Like,
for that.
oh no, we'll be fine. It was literally just 2 seconds of it. But you see him getting hit by the Ronin. They love their memes down there in Ukraine. You know, they're very good at the memeing. But anyways, moving us on from that, we are now going to be moving on down into the M14, as we were also able to see mobile fire groups being targeted that were trying to protect the convoys. We can see one of them here on this clip from about a week and a half ago, and we're about to watch them get blown up here as well. And there's another one of them, the little mobile fire group escort trucks. So the Ukrainians, of course, see this as a threat, so they're going to target them and blow them up. And it looks like these trucks are about as defenseless as the ones they're escorting. And look at that. They didn't even see the drone coming in, man. They weren't even at the ready. This guy was literally sitting down like they were just on a casual drive.
Man, honestly.
Wasted. Man, they ready for GTA 6. Like, they ready in Ukraine. They fiending for it. We also got to see that a fire broke out in Melitopol in this picture. We believe it's a substation, but we're not entirely sure. But moving us on out of Melitopol, it's finally time for us to get to our last clip from the Tendrivska Golf, where we were able to see that a supply boat was blasted to smithereens today by the Ukrainian armed forces. There's the supply boat, and a UGV, no less. They hit it, disabling it, and then the following fire and explosion was quite terrific. That's the end of that clip, but one hell of a thing to see right there. Beautiful, really, beautiful. But with that, folks, that is all of the news that we had for the day. Unfortunately, there was no speech that was put out by Volodymyr Zelensky, as it appears that he was away on business. So for that reason, we're going to be moving on into the second segment of the stream without any further delay to get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And I got to say, folks, that tonight has been the night of nights as far as news coverage goes. We have had a peak viewership tonight of 22,000 people, 22.1 thousand to be exact, and 126,000 people have watched the stream in the 2 hours and 16 minutes that we've covered the news. It's now time for us to move on to the second segment of the stream, where we get to chit chat with each and every one of y'all. There might be some breaking news developments coming out of the Middle East from Iranian attacks and the ongoing coup situation in Iraq, but we're not going to be covering news as the line of order for the rest of the night as the only thing we're doing. We're going to be addressing all of the super chats and as many live chats as we can that we've been able to gather through the news segment, which will be starting right now. But without any further ado, Matthew, take it away.
All right, so moving into our final segment of the night. It's now time to get our super chat questions, our live chats, and the Morse code decoders of the night. And we have a lot of stuff to get to with those questions. Also, by the way, we really have no more breaking news right now, at least at this very moment, out of the Middle East. That appears to be, at least for now, kind of dying down. We did just hear about 15 minutes ago that there were explosions reported in Bahrain, but that is the last update that we have so far. So that is what we know right now at this very moment. I do have an update out of Ukraine, though. We have the NASA firms data from the Slavyansk oil refinery, and I think it gives us an idea of just how bad that strike really was. It looks like the entire area is highlighted in red. It looks like someone took a Sharpie to it. So I put it in the likes tab, by the way. You can show people the Slavyansk situation from the NASA thermal satellite right now.
Let's take a look. Dang.
Oh yeah, as you can tell, it's definitely as you can tell, the red indicates heat, and there's a lot of heat where it should not be, right there in the middle of the refinery, right there. So if you want to go grab that Twitter post, there's a picture next to it where you can show people just why that fire signature is popping up like that. It's quite a serious fire right there at Slavyansk.
Oh, here we are. There we are. So let me get that. There it is here. Here it is on our firms, right here. And this is the reason why it looks like that. Oh.
Yeah, that's the reason why. That's a hell of a lot of heat right there. So Slavyansk is not by any means the largest oil refinery inside of Russia. It's one of the medium-sized ones, but it is critical, like every other refinery. I mean, Russia can't afford to lose refineries right now because Slavyansk was probably working overtime, I'd imagine, to try to supplement the loss of the Moscow refinery, would be my guess. So they needed that, and they've apparently, from the looks of it, lost it, as from what we can tell right here.
And it certainly does look like they lost it. Man, look at this. I don't know what this is because when you posted it, it only has these two things here. And so I clicked on this and I was like, what the hell is this arrow for? It's apparently for that. That's not even attached to it. I don't even know what that is and why it played that. I thought it was going to be another image. But anyways, it does appear that the strike was significant, and it does also appear that the refinery may be burning entirely to the ground at this moment from how significant the strikes were by the Ukrainian drones that hit the refinery basically when we were going live on air. So this refinery might also be knocked completely out of operation, along with the one in Nizhny Novgorod, the Kapotnia refinery, and also most likely the Yaroslavl refinery, which was being hit while we were on air a little bit earlier.
Actually, real quick, by the way, I got some information right now from Slavyansk that's even more than that. That literally just came out. Oil rain is starting at Slavyansk already. We just got a picture out of there right now, just reposted to the top of the Twitter page, showing a massive cloud of oil rain forming in the area of Slavyansk on Kuban. So I think they might be experiencing the plague at this point, which is just absolute petroleum cancer rain coming down in the area, which of course is somewhere I would definitely not want to be sitting right now. We have a lot of smoke and fire and stuff like that floating around out here in Utah right now because of the wildfires, but it doesn't match the intensity of oil cancer rain. That's a whole nother animal I wouldn't want to deal with.
I wouldn't want to deal with that. That sounds like it's not good, not healthy or anything. So I wouldn't want to deal with that myself either. But it looks like this is about to become another critical disaster, a lot like we saw in Moscow and all of the other significant oil depot attacks that Ukraine has conducted over the months, really, not the years, but really over the months for these historic sorts of fires like we're seeing right here. But you know something, Matthew, as a side note, like, I never thought about this, but we ought to go look at what's going on in Utah right now on the firm satellite. Oh, dude, bruh. Oh my god, it actually shows the stuff. It looks like they don't have anything for the iron fire. It looks like it's all down here now in that new fire, the cherry fire, that's now combined with the iron fire. So that's where most of the fires are here. Um,
I thought the iron fire was way down there at the bottom part of the state, the southern part down there.
no, that's the cottonwood fire. That's the huge one. Like let's see here. This is the iron fire, which is now combined with the cherry fire into
Huh.
one giant fire. So that one's about as big as the cottonwood fire now. And then the cottonwood fire is down here, and then a new one started just like 2 days ago, which is the wild goose fire, which is also rapidly growing as well. That one you can see very clearly on firms. I mean, that is an inferno at this point over that whole area. And then the cottonwood fire is down here, burning its way actually on up the mountainsides, up to, let's see, what is the big mountain down there in that area? Mount Baldy and Mount Belknap, which are huge. Like they're as big as like Lone Peak.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wish they'd put those fires out. I'm not sure if they really can with a fire that size, but the smoke is still like plaguing the area. Like every time I get outside, there's like smoke everywhere. You can barely see because of all the smoke around here. So I hope it blows out.
Yeah, I mean that's unreal. I mean, if you look at the size, you know that cottonwood fire is actually burned an area the size of the Salt Lake metro area at this point.
Yeah, really. I wish they'd bring in a hose and put it in the salt lake and fill it back up a little bit. And while they're at it, sprinkle a little water down there on the fire too. But we need a little water out here, folks. So we need some water in that lake badly because the dry lake bed's being exposed right now. And every time a windstorm comes through, they're saying it's kicking up like all the bad stuff that's dry on the lake bed. The good news is though there is a crust on the top of the lake bed, so that prevents some of the stuff from blowing up into the wind when there's a bad windstorm out here. But they need some help. Like the federal government needs to get down here and do something because the entire Salt Lake Metro is at risk.
Man, they found out today, folks, that there's actually elements of uranium in the dust now that's blowing up from the exposed lake bed, along with the arsenic. Boy, I gotta tell you, folks. At first, it was the rats that got it bad with the arsenic in the dust. Now it's going to be us people, because clearly people are not affected by arsenic like rats are. Because arsenic's rat poison, clearly. And of course, I'm being facetious. Arsenic affects every living animal, so it's not good to have that in your dust that's blowing into your city. So. Yeah, wild stuff going
Why,
on
why
in
can't
Utah.
why can't they just pull some hose out here and put it in it and like just refill it? It's like how are they going to get the water to the lake? It's like I don't know. Like they're going to try to conserve it or something. Like I don't know. Like it seems like whatever is causing the lake to go down ought to be like cut off. Whatever's causing it to go down. I don't even know how they do that. Like pull some hose in or something. I don't even know.
Man, Matthew's political slogan for saving the Great Salt Lake is going to be, "Where the hose at?" Man, like,
Like what's it
man.
like? Yeah, like a hose. Like just like put. I don't even know how you even go about refilling the lake.
Well, what you do is that you stop everyone from like feeding off of the tributaries to the Great Salt Lake, which is mostly agriculture. Basically, if you cut out a lot of the alfalfa farming in the state, the lake would largely be in a surplus most years, so it would return back to its normal condition. But because they're not willing to restrict alfalfa farming in the state, which is extremely water intensive, and it's also in the desert, meaning that evaporation rates require even more water, then that's the reason why the Salt Lake's largely drying up. Because if you look at the water consumption stats in the state, agriculture makes up, I think, something like 78% of the water consumption in the state of Utah, and everything else makes up that remaining, it's like 22%. And most of the water used in agriculture in the state, like the 70% of the 70%, is for alfalfa farming. So if you banned alfalfa farming in the state, the water situation would probably fix itself in a couple of years. But they're not doing that. They're letting the alfalfa farmers basically run the state dry of water, so that way they can make a little bit of money in the meantime, exporting their alfalfa to China. So that's kind of the whole situation in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's one thing there. Like, I was actually reading some research. There's been other places, like in California, that's experienced a similar situation to a lake drying up and it having like bad like types of substances that are in the lake dust, the dry lake bed dust, and those areas underwent depopulation essentially, like mass migration out of those areas where those lakes dried up. So I would hate to see something like that happen to Salt Lake City. Like this is a huge metro area, also a huge economic driver for the country as a whole. I mean, Salt Lake City generates a lot of revenue for the country, not just in the federal sense, but also in the state level as well. So I'm having a hard time understanding why they're not jumping on that while it's still early and get a grip on it.
It's just the stupidity as usual. I mean, that's the best way to describe it at this point. You know, it's like, oh yeah, you know, if the lake dries up, then the city is doomed, and the city of Salt Lake basically is the whole economy of Utah. But we're gonna let it do that because you know we don't want to upset the alfalfa farming like in the state, which is absolutely stupid. It's like if the Chinese want alfalfa that badly, then they ought to pay top dollar for it instead of us trying to produce it in bulk off of government subsidies, draining the water in the state to extremely dangerous levels, so that way some people in China can have alfalfa. Because if you don't know, most of the alfalfa grown in the United States and most of our agricultural products grown in the United States, like soy and alfalfa and whatnot, most if not all of that is actually packed up and shipped straight to China after it's done harvesting.
Wow.
Because none of it is consumed by the U.S. in that kind of volume.
Yeah, well, the good news is, people say all the time, or at least some people say, they'll say, look, guys, you got to stop using all these big words and dumb the show down a little bit or dumb it down so that way we can know what you're talking about. Don't use all these, like, like college terms and stuff like that. Use the terms that people understand. Thankfully, y'all won't have to worry about it because once the arsenic keeps blowing down our way down here at near our house, we'll eventually have to be forced to dumb it down from the looks of it. So I think we'll solve that problem through nature.
Man, this this air be tasting spicy. Like, what is that? Dude, rats out there all over. Like, man, you know, there's those weird boxes that people put out near to the cheese. Now it smells like that everywhere. Man, it's like, what's going on?
You taste metal. You don't taste metal. You don't see anything. No graph on the ground. It's like we got the environmental equivalent of Chernobyl, like basically chipping away up there with the lake situation. Like that situation is going to get bad. Thankfully, right now they can still get a grip on it if people would actually jump on the problem and properly deal with it. But who knows if they will? Time will tell. We'll have to see.
Let's see. Hold up. Wait a minute. Hang on. So I want to see here. Oh dang. So this is the live update for the Salt Lake right here of what the water levels have been doing year over year. It actually got to its lowest in the latter part of 2022, and I think a nice rain season and a snow season came through that winter, which raised the levels back up to adverse. And now we're back down to serious adverse. So this isn't the first time that it's done it, but as y'all can note, the lake has been drying up for about 2 decades at this point, and so critical action has to be taken now to reverse this, or the lake is going to completely dry up and cease to exist, which is going to be a doomsday scenario for the state of Utah, the city of Salt Lake, and the economy of the state. So if the governor, you know, who right now is talking about we need that data center for economic progress, if he wants anyone to be around for there to be an economy, the Salt Lake would be an important thing to preserve, because otherwise everyone's going to be leaving because no one wants to live in a giant arsenic cloud that's blowing into the city literally on the daily if the lake dried up completely. So you know, that's my two
Yeah, we'll be
cents on it.
packing. I will be packing right back up in that Penske truck and heading right back out if that thing really starts drying up and really blowing arsenic around. That's really concerning. But thankfully, it's not. I don't think it's like completely like a crisis, like a red level crisis right now. But it'll get there. I think.
Man, you want to see what the Salt Lake's been doing since 1984 when it was at its peak in size?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see it.
Let's take a look. This is the Salt Lake over the years from 1984 to the present day.
Oh wow, yeah, it's really gone down quite a lot. Antelope Island's turned into basically like a desert oasis at this point compared to an island.
Yeah, I mean it's something else. I guess we'll have to find a new place to move if the lake dries up like everyone else will from here. And I think folks that the place I would want to live is, oh, I know everybody. I know, I got an idea. New York,
Where?
New York. I'm just kidding, but like
Oh
it's too
yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, man, I'll be living in this even smaller place. I'll be down to like 20 square feet in New York. Damn.
Bruh, it's like, man, out here in Salt Lake City, you can get a decent apartment right now. A little arsenic cloud. Go to New York City, it's like 50 square feet. Like, it's literally just the bed and maybe a little space to walk around the bed to get on it, and that's it. There's no bathroom, there's nothing. And that's New York, folks. New York, New York. Or you can go to California, where the rent for like any place is like 10,000 a month, which is
And then
also
they
a
take
great
away all
option.
your money and income taxes too. Like they take away a crazy chunk of your money in California for income taxes. it's like the total opposite of Texas, where they don't have a state income tax. California taxes the hell out of you. Granted, their coast looks nice, but I'm like, I don't want my money taken away like that. It's like, dang, it's like by the time like everybody takes their cut, that's like YouTube, the government, the state. It's like basically be having no income coming in.
Man, before long, man. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. Man,
Oh
we're gonna
no,
be. Oh no.
no, man! I'm going out to Montana out there. I'm going out to Montana. I'm going to go get myself a school bus and go park it out there in the woods.
Oh man, that sounds great. That sounds so good. That sounds smart. Are you gonna build a little cabin too in the middle of nowhere and start writing about the industrial revolutions and the consequences on humanity?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, not really though. I'm not going out to the middle of Montana nowhere and stuff like that. The way I look at it, as a little arsenic hadn't ever hurt nobody when it blows around from the lake. I mean, there's only like advantages to it, really. I mean, the rent's going to go down in Salt Lake City. All the prices, everything's going to go down because ain't nobody going to want to stay. So there'll be a lot of openings. You'll have a lot of leverage as a renter.
Folks, I just thought about it. Matthew, we ought to go back to university and go get ourselves a doctorate in medicine, get that MD, because this is an emerging medical economy. So many people are going to be coming down with sicknesses and illnesses, and we, Matthew, can be the ones to fix them. That's right. With our snake oils and our MDs, we can go out there and make sure to run them dry. Get them pockets, get that insurance money too, because there's going to be a lot of medical afflictions out here in this city, and they're going to be nobody to fix them but us. But anyways, all jokes aside, folks, I really don't want to move out of here. It's a really nice place, but we might have to. The situation keeps getting worse and no one's willing to fix it. I remember the president, it was a couple of months ago, he said they were going to make the Salt Lake great again. I haven't really seen them do anything about that, though. So I guess that was just a statement for the fun of it, and then they completely drop that and move on. But anyways, moving on into our questions. What do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving into our super chat questions here. Our first one of the last segment is going to go to Charles Z07. And thank you very much, Charles, for that $50 support. And we do appreciate that generous support very, very much. And Charles said, Ukraine has shown us how to efficiently take out Iran.
I would say, yeah, I would agree with you, Charles. They have. It's a significant amount of drone warfare. The problem is, though, is that the U.S. has been very slow to implement it, and so we're basically still almost at square one. We're like in the protoplasmic days of the Ukraine war in 2026, which is way behind the curve at this point. So we have a lot of catching up to do. And I don't know if they'd be willing or able to rapidly do that well enough here in the United States, but it certainly is an option to be able to go up against the Iranians successfully and most likely succeed. And so, a big thanks to you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to not other than Mark Ead. And thank you, Mark, as well, for also a generous $50 support. We do appreciate it very, very much. And Mark said, hey, LTLSA. And Peel One from the chat, fellas. And LOC, New Zealand from the South.
Hey, that's a place we could live, New Zealand in the South. Don't you worry, we're gonna whip out our straws out there and suck the southern island dry of water. That's how everyone in America's doing it here in the Southwest right now. So why not New Zealand? But all jokes aside, big thanks to your support, Mark Ead, and a big shout out to the folks in the southern islands of the southern island of New Zealand that are watching the show right now. We are always entirely honored and greatly appreciative to know that folks like you, Mark, have been around for years, enjoying the channel, watching the channel, and also supporting it from time to time, which we're greatly thankful of. And also, I gotta say that y'all have some absolutely beautiful areas in New Zealand. Places that really are some of the best. It looks just like the Wasatch. It looks just like Utah. Really, it actually kind of does to a degree, but it is S-tier scenery, S-tier beauty. And I gotta thank you so much once again for enjoying the channel and helping to keep on running, and long live the Leaf Spring Army. And we will make sure to take one from the chat in your honor. So Matthew, what do we got?
And the one from the chat is going to go to Neo Saturn, who said, would a failed Iran-backed coup bring Iran into a war with Iran?
Will bring Iraq into a war. You said bring Iran into a war with Iran. I was like, what? Would it fail?
Oh, whoops.
I don't think so. Iraq generally is its government is largely geared as a pacifist country. at least in terms of its foreign policy, because of our constitution that we kind of created for them in the occupation of Iraq in 2003 onwards. So they really can't do anything offensively to the Iranians. So the answer would be, if the coup fails, they're going to try and play it off as not that big of a deal, brush it under the rug, and then just keep running things as they do in Iraq, which is very poorly. And so, big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep it running, Marquis, and a huge thanks to you for sponsoring our live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, a big shout out to Jocelyn White for putting in a $30 support. Thank you very much, Josh, as well, for the 30, and we do appreciate that very, very much. And Josh said, I appreciate the dedication and the hard work you both do every day, and LLT LSA. And thank you very much, Josh, for those kind words, by the way. I had somebody ask me yesterday, they sent me I think it was an email or a message or something. They were like, Matt, are you good? You're like posting on Twitter at like 3 a.m. in the morning. I was like, well, if I really think about it, that is kind of a little bit manic to be posting on Twitter at 3 a.m. in the morning. Like, that is a little bit manic. It's almost like our president, actually. He posts very early in the morning, too, like that. But I'm not manic, though, or at least I don't think I am. But I'm just simply waking up and thinking, there's got to be something happening. And I now check Twitter and I'm like, oh, there is something happening. So I make a quick post and then I go right back to sleep. Like, I'm able to like just kind of wake up like slightly to see what's going on and then just go right back to sleep. And somehow it works. But thank you very much, Josh. And Enforcer, what say you?
Actually, that's probably one of my most active hours on Twitter, is like the 1:30 to 3 in the morning category, man. That's like when I really get on Twitter and start going at, because I'm like, man, he's asleep, and I want to make sure, especially on days where I have to make a short video, I'm like, I want to make sure that if anything's happening right now, I've got it for tomorrow. So I actually start reposting a lot as well. So some of that might not actually be Matthew, that might be me. Like, he might be asleep by the time that a lot of those reposts are being made, because I'm usually up later into the night, longer than he is, and I also do a little bit of that posting, especially during those hours. Because outside of that, like, if we both look at it through most of the day, we kind of like cancel out all of the news for each other on our feeds. So then Matthew's like, hey, like, I wanna like see it so that way I can make sure to repost it. So then he's the one who does that mostly through the day. Every once in a while I get on there a little bit and look at it. But I don't want to mess up the feed too much, because only one person can really look at it and repost it. But when he's asleep, I actually do go through and repost a little bit. But I will have to say, a big thanks to you for supporting Jocelyn White and enjoying this channel and the hard work we do. And I do have to say that it is quite hard work. Lately, like tonight, I feel I'm very sorry, folks, if it sounded like I wasn't really keeping my monologue too well formed. Because whenever there's breaking news that comes out rapidly, it's very hard to keep a train of thought. Like over a long term, where it's like this thing connects to this thing connects to that, and all, is connected in a big web of a story, like we usually do every single night. Because whenever we have to stop for breaking news, I have to completely stop my monologue, listen to that, analyze that, and talk about that as a standalone thing, completely outside of the overarching story framework, and then try and go back to the story framework, and that's very hard to do. But a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel keep it running, Jocelyn White, because you help us to be able to do the sometimes difficult but very enjoyable and very rewarding work that we do here, to be able to get the news out to millions of people every single month. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, everybody in the chat was telling me, Matt, Lake Tahoe is legit. I thought they were talking about the car for a minute. I was going to say, Tahoe's pretty decent, like, truck chassis. It's kind of all right. But they're talking about the lake. I think I've seen some pictures. Oh yeah, this is definitely the lake I was thinking about. A beautiful place, but I don't know. Like, I think it's expensive though. I mean, it looks like Lake Como, like over there in Europe. It looks very similar to it, at least to me. So it's very beautiful. But usually when places look this beautiful and this nice, usually it's crazy expensive to live there. So I would imagine it's probably a little bit on the high end, would be my guess. But it's a beautiful place. I don't know what the nearest city is to it, but it looks nice.
The nearest city is Carson City, I believe, in Nevada.
Oh, is that any good?
It looks. Let's do a street view. Let us do a street view. Are you ready?
Yeah, I would like to see what they have to offer.
Oh,
okay. This is
not
not
bad.
this does not look like Nevada at all. This looks like a suburb in Chicago.
Oh, not bad. Oh, Heidi's. Heidi. Really cool, actually. There's some abandoned mines out here, Matthew. Virginia City. You ever heard of that Comstock lode?
No.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't.
That's why you laughed at it, because you heard me say load and it sounded funny. But that's where the biggest silver vein was found in the whole world, Matthew. Did you know that?
Oh,
There's
silver and gold, silver and
Man,
gold.
there's one guy we know, he'd be jumping on top of this. Like silver and gold, silver and gold. But yeah, it's near to Virginia City. This is a really cool place, like a big tourist deal. Kind of tourist trap sort of a thing out here, because it's a famous Wild West city, Virginia City is. But Carson City, though, it doesn't look that bad, really. I mean, like, let's take another look at another suburb, like over here on this side of town. Not bad, not bad. Actually, this is not that bad of a place. So I don't know. Maybe this could be an option, because you could just drive around. It's always deceptive, though. Like, a drive like this from Carson City to Lake Tahoe is probably like an hour or two, because that's how it is out here in Utah. Because I remember when we moved to Utah, Matthew was like, "Oh, Salt Lake City, it's like super close to Park City. That's like 30 minutes away." In reality, crazily enough, Park City's like an hour and a half away on a normal drive, which is wild, because it's literally like 15 miles away from the city in a straight line. But because you have to drive around the mountains to get to it, it adds a lot to the distance. But still, that would be an interesting place to
Oh,
look at. Lake Tahoe.
yeah, it's steep though. Apparently, Carson City is where everybody lives. If you want to live near Lake Tahoe, it looks like their rental prices are a little on up there from the looks of it. You can get your place, get you like a 1,200 square foot place, and you're running about 2,000 to 3,000 a month. So that's pretty steep.
Damn, that is pretty steep. Shit, I don't think that's an option for us. Oh lordy, we screwed up. Like, we just had to live in the arsenic cloud. Man, I tell you, we're gonna be living in like the Mad Max lands. There's just no way we can afford that. Lake Tahoe, goodness gracious, folks. But it does look nice. I mean, that's insanely nice looking. I mean, look, it's like an inland sea, like a Great Salt Lake.
It really kind of is, really.
Man, I really want to go see this now, because I mean, that's unreal. There were like little narrow gauge railways around here. Actually, they were like really neat. Like, they would drop off tourists on little boats that would take them on scenic trips around the lake and then back, which is really cool. But anyways, enough of this stuff, folks. Enough of it. It's time for us to move on and into the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to none other than Truckin' Chef. And Truckin' Chef puts in a $20 support. And thank you, good sir, as well, for that generous support.
Hey!
He said, from Kaliningrad, the front lines, what is the war disposition of NATO and the incoming threat of Russia, and can we win?
We would definitely win a ground war against Russia in their current condition right now, but that does not mean that they would not get the jump on us at the start, because whenever someone has the element of surprise and they attack first, there is an attacker's advantage in that sort of a situation, because our forces are not ready, they're not spread out along an active front line to be able to effectively resist or stop a Russian advance. So if they hit the border and start driving across, they are able to keep driving, and in effect, the territory behind them becomes Russian territory until they come up against a NATO unit that hits them, engages them, and stops them from advancing any farther. So a lot of people have a misconception about that, because a lot of people always think that it's a very black and white thing. Like, if Russia couldn't win in the whole war, then that means they wouldn't even be able to gain an inch of ground at the beginning of the war against NATO. But in reality, they would be able to gain some ground. We'd eventually stop them, counterattack, and start pushing them back, and we would win. But in the larger part, though, do not be mistaken that if the Russians were the ones to start the war and they took NATO by surprise, they are going to be able to gain key areas of ground. They're definitely going to be taking the Suwalki Gap. They'll most likely also be taking some decent amounts of ground inside of the Baltic states before they're stopped up there. And then we'd be fighting on NATO territory to push them back, which we would eventually do. So a big thanks to your support, Truckin' Chef, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I would say, and once again, finally, for the simple question, can we win? Yes, we would win. The conventional war, at least. The nuclear side of things, though, it's basically a stalemate at that point, and that means that we would have to get in some sort of negotiations before it went nuclear. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Wayne's World of Sci Tech, who puts in a $14 support. And thank you, Wayne, as well. He said,
Hey!
good work, lads. And take a question from the chat.
And thank you, my boy, for supporting the channel and helping us to keep this thing running. And we will make sure to take one from the chat in your honor. So, Matthew, what do we got?
And the one from the chat, in honor of Wayne's super chat, is going to go to Mark Hooper. He said, if you prorate the day-to-day 40, what do you think the state of Russia will be?
Um, What is
after the
day?
40-day operation.
Oh, man, I was about to say from the day-to-day 40. I was like, is that like an octane or something? I was like, I'm confused. I would say that Russia's going to be looking pretty bad. They're already in a desperate state right now, and with the damage that Ukraine's inflicting, there's no way for them to stabilize the situation or even recover. So by the end of these 40 days, Russia is going to be in a situation where everything economically is probably ground to a complete stop because no one's even able to move around at that point because of the lack of fuel. So I hope that addresses that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $10 support from Ian Mitson, and thank you, Ian, as well for the 10. He said, I just wanted to finally see that Clint Eastwood movie, but it's going to be you guys again, haha. And take one from the chat in LOTLOC, and thank you very much.
And long live the Lee Spring Army. And I hate that we distracted you from the Clint Eastwood movie. You know, Clint Eastwood, he's not that bad of an actor. You know, he's not that bad. You know, a lot of people know him is Clint Eastwood. I mean, he kind of plays himself in every single movie. That's something with a lot of actors. You know, like The Rock plays The Rock, Clint Eastwood plays Clint Eastwood. You know, John Wayne's John Wayne in every single movie. You know, it's a reoccurring sort of a thing. But I hope that you get to enjoy it someday. Maybe Monday. Monday's a day that we're not running a show. Maybe you could enjoy it then. But a huge thanks to you for support once again and enjoying this channel. And thank you once again for helping us to keep this thing running. And long live the Lee Spring Army. And we're on the next one.
And our next one is going to go to none other than Zechariah Doms, who put in a 10. He said, at Grok, is this real? Honestly, that drives me insane, by the way. Like, there are loads of people that's like Twitter randos, as that Air Force colonel called them. They just come into like a Twitter post and they'll be like, "At Grok, is this real?" It's like, bro, like, just pull it up. It's like, if you want to verify it's real, it's like, pull it up yourself. Don't go ask Grok. It's like, what are you gonna let the AI dictate what's true and what's not true? And half the time, it hasn't been updated yet with the new information, so it tells them something that's the wrong answer. So it's like, I think they made it to where you had to be like a premium subscriber to use Grok. Is this real? I think they had to. You have to now be a premium subscriber. So it cut a lot of people off from using it because the people were not paying for the premium subscription that were asking about that. So they got cut off from it, which was honestly a blessing. But Enforcer, what say you?
They really did that?
I think so. I've seen some people come into the replies. They'll be like, "Ed Grok, is this real?" And it says you need to subscribe or something like that to premium to get this feature or something like that. I've seen it before.
Damn, that's wild. At Grok, is this real? Man, I was trying to set you up for that one, man. I was trying to set you up. But beyond that, though, I'd have to say I hate that whole Grok is this real. I really hate it when people use AI at all because you know something, folks. Earlier on a super chat, with RCH Technologies, he said former Army 19 Delta, and I took the mistake of doing this. I'll show y'all. Let's see here. Oh, now it changed the answer? What the hell? So earlier when I put in 19D MOS, it said it was a Hawk operator for like a Hawk SAM system. And I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. And I like quickly looked at it because I didn't have a lot of time and I didn't want to stall. And so I was like, I want to make sure to get the MOS correct because I don't know that one off the top of my head. It said Hawk operator earlier. Now it's saying Cavalry Scout. And then every other answer below it is Cavalry Scout, like every single one. But the top answer from the AI said Hawk operator. And I saw that with mine own eyes because I didn't misquote the AI. I remember I was like, oh, that's really cool. I was like, wow, a Hawk operator. I was like, there's some M23s over there right now in Ukraine. And so I would say, AI is hardly reliable at all. I don't like it whatsoever. But a huge thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on the next one.
Also, a big shout out to Weaselboy Jenkins, who put in a $5 support. And thank you very much, Weaselboy Jenkins, for that support as well. We also have a 5 from Live Animal. He said, somebody doesn't want to buy the low-quality PGSA insurance policy, but alas, the insurance industry always wins.
I sadly don't know what that's about, Live Man. Well, I don't think I'm apprised of that situation at the moment, unfortunately. But I do thank you greatly for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. This is folks like you who make this thing possible. And so with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Secret Squirrel Girl, who put in a 5, of course. It said Marmot Attack.
Marmot Attack. Oh, and we need, you know what? We need to have one. We haven't done this in a minute. Let me go get it. Let me go get it real quick, folks.
Hello.
Oh, hello there. Hey!
Hello there, Governor. Hello there. It's been a long time to see you. A long time on the Cornish coast eating Cornish pastry. It's a strange thing. You eat the pastries. You get the way of tongue that way. Anyway, Governor, what you got to say over there? For a little fly down there, a little something to say. I need buzzing around, a little buzzer bee.
Aw, man. I'm just living my life like a dope. Like a man,
Like a doper
dopey.
with dope.
Oh man, they call me the dope with the dope. Oh man.
It's a funny thing that dope with the dope. It's a little funny thing, that little thing right there. I watched a North Korean flick. They was talking about the Americans were laying on benches eating birds and on Tuesdays and doing other bad things apparently on the park benches. A strange thing what they're doing on a park bench.
Oh man, it's totally not true. This fly was awaiting heroin. Man, like,
Oh dear, that's not savory. Oh dear.
this is how life is like for a fly today. Oh man, we love the marmot and the fly. I tell you, Alan the marmot and the fly. The fly has no name, but I do have to say, big thanks to you so much once again for the support, Secret Squirrel Girl, and allowing us to have a marmot segment on air. And we greatly appreciate your support and the fact that you help us to keep this channel running every single day. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have 5 from Jason Curling, and Jason said, "How bad do you think Price Energy will be this winter with all destroyed all oil refinery? Winter start October in part world."
I think, as far as Russia goes, for the rest of the world, the situation might be fine by then. Hopefully, the blockade on the Hormuz will not become definite and destructive, and hopefully, we'll be able to break the blockade. But with Russia, however, the prices are going to be unaffordable, and also on top of that, by then we'll probably see rolling blackouts throughout the whole of Russia because there just won't be enough fuel to be able to keep the grid running on the day to day, most likely. So the prices would be incredibly high for the times that they're on, like the times the electricity are on, but most of the time the electricity probably isn't going to be on at all. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And a big thanks to you once again for support, Jason Curling, and a great question right there, actually. And with that, we're on the next one.
All right, so moving on here. Let's see here. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. I might have a little bit of I might have a little bit of something. I have a little some breaking news right here. I have a 3 times breaking news. So let's jump into that real quick. Let's take a minute to take away from our super chats for a second and move into our breaking news that we have right now. So it does appear that Iran has just claimed responsibility for the Bahrain and Kuwait attacks, which is obviously expected, and they're threatening a complete halt in the talks with the United States. So that's a move we're seeing right now. Also, we're seeing out of Iraq, with the Iraq situation happening right now, that apparently there are continued security deployments and now inspections of vehicles with government license plates in the green zone. So I've been seeing, I want to address this real quick, by the way. I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter, and fair enough, like everybody's entitled to their own analysis, but I've been seeing a lot of people saying that's merely the Iraqi security forces cracking down on corruption. This is a lot more than that, folks. Like, I'm going to have to disagree strongly and be in the minority of that analysis right there. I think something way bigger than that's going on here. We'll probably hear more about it in the coming days about how significant this is, but I think this is a lot more than a mere anti-corruption campaign, would be my guess. But unfortunately, what do you make of this right here? The inspections within the green zone, which is, by the way, supposed to be a safe zone, but apparently they're thinking that people are roaming around that are not so savory.
Oh, it definitely looks like more than, just some anti-corruption actions because, when you look at, like, for example, when you look at the United States, you don't see anti-corruption actions just rolling up into the Capitol building and they're like, okay, we're arresting like 20 representatives and 6 senators. And we're also going to be getting a Supreme Court judge or a Supreme Court justice while we're at it as well for corruption. That's not normal, especially if the whole U.S. Army, at least the brigades around Washington, just rolled into the city to do that. That's not normal. So that's not normal anti-corruption actions. You don't see that in China when they conduct their little anti-corruption campaigns, which are purges. And also on top of that, these days, usually anti-corruption actions are usually given as a guise for a purge or to conduct a coup or to try and put down dissenters. That's usually what it is. So I would say that I would also be in the minority as well. This is definitely something more than just normal anti-corruption actions. This is not normal for Iraq or anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, and also it's like, why would they be making a point to make such a big show of it? Like, you don't need like a fleet of military equipped helicopters, Humvees, Abrams tanks. I mean, they're acting like they're going into like like an armored vehicle battle or something, but they're just arresting people. That's allegedly what they're doing here, that are allegedly involved in corruption. Since when is corruption involved, tanks and, military helicopters and stuff like that? They're clearly making a point, whoever's behind this, to make a huge show of it. And that seems to be almost entirely for intimidation purposes. So that also lines up with a coup or a soft takeover, or maybe even a more hardline takeover from the looks of it. That's what that looks like. So I don't get why people are downplaying this so much. I think this is a very big deal.
Yeah, I would say it is quite a big deal, at least to me. We'll probably find out more in the coming days that will start to give us an idea. It probably was a big deal, or we might be wrong, but I have a feeling that that's probably a slim chance. But with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Travis Murray, who puts in a 5. He said, Iran is Shia, not Sunni, and that is true. He said, not sure if the Sunnis in Iraq support Iran, but just a thought in LSA.
That's true, Travis. That's true. And so we'll have to see what pans out. But I did get that wrong for a very big part at the beginning of the show in saying that the Sunnis were the ones who supported Iran. The Sunnis are not. The Shias are the ones who usually support Iran, or the Iranians find the most support within the Shia populations of the Middle East. So you're absolutely correct on that. And a big thanks to your support and help this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $10 super chat from Game Theory, and thank you, Game Theory, as well for that support. He said, can you create the LSA worm like the marmot to interact with? I nominate the Nerai Sander C worm. What the hell is that? Why do I have a feeling it's something sketchy?
Let me go pull it up. Let's see. Worm. No, we are not using this worm. Like, you gotta go Google that yourself, man. I can't even show that on stream. That is not a worm we could use. But I do think you're the support, Game Theory. It helped with this channel to keep it running. It's just that I don't think we could do that with that worm. But a big thing.
Ugly eye worm.
Man.
Yeah, that's an ugly thing right there.
Man, that thing is so grotesque, it's sickening, really. But a big thanks to you so much for the support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I saw Andrew Honeycutt saying the light chat. I said, Enforcer, it appears like a coup. I know, right? Like, it really has an appearance like a coup. I feel like these days, people have gotten so distrustful of, like, what's coming out in the media that people are, like, distrusting their own eyes at this point. Like, we can see, like, the whole, like, military rollout in Iraq and Baghdad that's unprecedented. Like, haven't seen that in ages. And people are like, nah, it's nothing. Just overhyped garbage. I'm like, what the? I'm like, what the hell? When's the last time you saw these tanks rolling around in Baghdad like this and people getting arrested and people being held at gunpoint? It's like, this is unusual. Like, this is unusual. Like, I get the fact that some people don't want to go as far as to say this is 100% a coup, but it's like, to act like it's absurd to suggest it's a coup. I'm like, that's ridiculous to go like act that goofy about it. That's silly. But moving on to our next one here, though. This one goes to Plazoth, who puts in a 2, and also Nick Martin, who put in a 2 as well. And we appreciate the both of you very much for that support. But Enforcer, what say you?
And a big thanks to both of y'all for the support, because y'all are helping this channel to keep on running. And so a big thanks to both of y'all once again, and we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from RCH Technologies. He said, Enforcer Matt 19 Delta is a Cav Scout.
And that's true. I'm so sorry I got that wrong. I've unfortunately, for one of the few times I've ever done this, I went and looked at the AI answer and it said Hawk Operator. I'm very sorry about that. And I do thank you so much for your support, and I also thank you for enjoying the channel with your background as a cavalry scout. And I have to say, I cannot tell you how bad I feel about getting that incorrect, because I went and pulled it up and got the answer from the AI there, and I'm very sorry about that. My apologies. But a huge thanks to you for support once again, RCH Technologies, for helping this channel to keep it running nonetheless. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from TY Golden Flyer, who said, snozberry taste like a snozberry.
Schnozberries taste like schnozberries. That's a Willy Wonka reference.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the hell's that mean? I thought they were trying to like have me on something. I was like, what does this mean? Like, what is this snodberry business? Right? I've never really heard of that.
Man, bro, man, he's gotten so afraid of being had. He read a Willy Wonka line. I thought Willy Wonka was getting to that. Man, bro, man, the everlasting gob. I'm not gonna read.
That is actually kind of sus when you think about it, the whole like gob thing, that little,
Man, I'm not gonna lie, man. There was a lot of stuff in that factory that was really odd. Like Gustavus, sweetheart, oompa loompa doompity dee. What do you get when your kid is a whale? Right, like it's like
I
all
like
the
that.
other
I
sort
like
of
that
stuff.
on. I like that on Unhinged, an Unhinged one that they had. By the way, you know that one where it was like, whatchamacallit? Hold on a second. I was trying to make sure I didn't miss something real quick. Had a little glitch in the spreadsheet there, but
Well, get it
you know
out.
that on you know that unhinged one. I was trying to check something, but you know that unhinged version of Willy Wonka. It was that one with that dude who was talking about the mega pint. What's his name? What's the guy's name? You know who I'm talking about? The one that was in that trial with that
Johnny
lady.
Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp. That unhinged version of Willy Wonka. That one. That one was wild.
Honestly, man, I like the original one because of the tunnel scene where they literally just showed a chicken getting his head cut off on the wall. Like that's supposed to be a fear factor. I mean, that was, that was terrifying as a kid. But when you look at that now as an adult, it's like that's still unsettling. But that's kind of like the weirdest thing to show to get people
Was
terrified.
that was that the one where those old people were all living in one bed? Like 4 or 5 old people were living
Oh
in
yeah,
one
they
bed.
did that in all versions of the story. That's like an integral part of the Willy Wonka book. So they did that in the Johnny Depp one and the Gene Wilder one. But the first one was the one where like his bum ass was like in the bed. Oh, Charlie, I can't do anything. I can't get a job. And then Charlie's like, I get a golden ticket. And he's like, oh, yippee! And he like gets right up out of the bed. I can walk now. And it's like,
Man,
bruh, you've been a
mooching
welfare
off those
leech.
kids. Mooching off those kids, man. He got the golden ticket and he realized the whole thing was a fraud the whole time. It's like, damn, Gramps was living in the bed with 5 other old people and he didn't even have to.
Man, he was sitting there literally hot bunking every single day, bro, because he's a bum. Bro, it's just a kid with a ticket. He's like, I can walk. It's like, you full of shit. You've been living off of the welfare system for 20 years, Gramps. 20 years. You could have gotten a job. You walked. You were fine. He just lied about it. Oh, I loved working for Wonka. It's like, if you loved working, why didn't you get your ass out of that bed and get a job, man? But beyond that, though, I like the first one, though, because also on top of that, Gene Wilder was like, you couldn't really tell what he was doing, like, or what he was about to do. But Johnny Depp wasn't bad. I mean, that Willy Wonka wasn't bad, but I just feel like it didn't have, like, the effect that the first one had, like the original one.
Yeah, I would say so.
But anyways, with that, we're on the next one.
And our next one here is a $10 super chat from CareBros3. And thank you, CareBros, for that support. And also, sorry for missing it. For some reason, I marked it as red. I don't know why, because it hadn't been read yet. But thank you very much, CareBros, for that 10. I said, to Enforcer Matt's GTA fund, so you can get the $100 version to not be locked out of in-game content, not looking promising so far. Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you for that. Actually, that's the one thing right there I actually did shell out the cash for. And I don't think they charge you for it until like 10 days before it comes out. Also, excuse me, by the way, I think the smoke outside's got me coughing. But I did go ahead and pre-order it, but they didn't charge me for it yet. So I guess they do it later on. But I'm a little bit concerned, though, about the thing you're talking about there with the in-game content being like a pay-for-play kind of deal. Like, it looks to me like it could be possibly, which is not a good sign. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it doesn't sound good. It sounds like that corporate greed is everywhere from what I'm hearing right now. And I'm kind of happy that I haven't put money into that game, because then it sounds like you might have to do a reoccurring like monthly subscription. It sounds like that right now. And if that's the case, I want nothing of it. I don't care how good the game is. It's just not worth paying a monthly subscription to play one game, every couple of hours every month. At least in my opinion. That's how I feel about it. Like, I don't know why games have to get that greedy at this point. It's like, if a game wants me to play it, then they're going to, make it enticing for me to play it. Like, the servers and multiplayer is going to be free. If it's not free, I'm not playing it. Like, I'm not a consumer that's going to get, beat over the cannon with a whip, and just take it and be fine with it. It's like, no, if that's the game they're running these days, I'm not playing it. Like, I have standards. But a big thanks to your support. Double this channel to keep it running nonetheless. And we thank you greatly for that support. And hopefully Matthew can do that, hopefully. And so a big thanks to you once again, and we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from RCH Technologies yet again, who said, it's all good, guys. I laughed about it and keep on keeping on.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support. And also thank you for being a good sport about that. I really did feel bad about that, though, when you're like, I'm actually a cavalry scout. I was like, oh, God. I was like, why did the AI forsake me like that? I was really trying to make sure that I got your MOS right. And also, by the way, in your profile picture, RCH Technologies, is that an EMD SD60 demonstrator unit right here? Like one of these? Because
Oh, my God.
it looks like it. I mean, like, doesn't it?
Well, man, you can't say the names of the train that detailed. I'm going to ban you from saying it that detailed, man. That is wild.
I'm just saying it looks a lot like it. It looks like the one over
How
there
the
on the
hell do you
left.
remember that crap, man? How the hell do you remember that like off the top of your head? That was so damn specific.
Well, how the hell do you remember specific types of cars, man? I don't know shit about them.
That's because cars are for gentlemen.
Well, yeah, these trains is for gentlemen. I'm a gentleman right here, and I'm looking at it, and that looks like an EMD 60 SD.
But it would be like me doing this. It would be like me doing this. Like, for example, if I came across like a BMW M3 or something like that, it'd be like, oh my God, is that a 2022 BMW M3 competition with the extra lowered package and also the 19-inch rims? Like, that is so specific. Like, the fact you can recall all that information just by looking at one image of a train is kind of impressive on one respect, and also it makes me concerned.
You should be concerned. But man, this is how we made this. This is how the channel. Oh, he said it is. It is. It is. It's an N scale too. I thought it was. Like I looked at that and I was like, that's got to be an SD60. Because they had the specific paint job for them for the demonstration units. That's why I knew it. And that's why I was like, is that an AMD SD60 demonstration unit? But outside of that, though, Matthew, that's how this channel came into being. If you don't recall, you weren't around at the beginning, but back in the day, man, I like this channel got known before you were actually here working. Like a month later, after the show blew up. Like I would be like, that's a T72B3 mod 2022 right there that just got blown up. You can tell by these tiles and this configuration. Like that's my thing, man. I gotta know my vehicles. Like not cars. Cars are literally the only thing I cannot do this on. But I can do this on any other vehicle out there on the planet. Ships, planes, tanks, or trains. Like you can do that on any of those, and I'll probably be able to get it mostly off the bat. Ships probably not as good, but planes, trains, and also let's see what's the other one, tanks and other military vehicles. I can generally do that off the bat. It's my thing, folks. It's what I do. But still, I gotta say a big thanks to you for clarifying that it is one RCH
Oh.
Technologies. Hmm?
Also, he's saying RCH Technology is my model railroad here in Texas.
Oh, hold up. Let me pull that up. RCH.
Oh, so RCH Technology, he's deep into this then. So he's talking your language.
My boy. Like he's my language. And look at that. Let's see. RCH Technologies Railroad. Let me see. Uh, is it the Housatonic Railroad? Is that the one that you're talking about? Because I haven't heard of this one. I don't know a lot about the Texan railways. Like I know a great deal about Alabama's railways and like the railways of the Southeast. I don't really know a lot about Utah's railways actually. I can't get interested enough in them for some reason. But let me know what railroad um let's see it is like which one you model because I'd like to pull it up and take a look at it because that'd actually be pretty interesting. But humongous thanks to you though once again for the support, and also really cool to know that I did get that right off the top of my head because I saw the picture and I was like, that's very distinct. They also have one of these on Train Sim Classic, by the way. I think it's on the Canadian Pacific route or one of them. Canadian National route actually. It's one of the Canadian National ones in the game, and you can actually run this thing on it. It has the same paint job too, so that's also where I remember it from. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on and into the next one.
All right. So moving into our next one, this one goes to Justin, who put in a 2. He said, "Took me an hour, brah. LOL and LSA."
Hey, and a big thanks to you for supporting. That's okay, better late than never, is what we always say. And we thank you for being here with us tonight, Justin, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from Flamingo, and thank you, Flamingo, for that support right there. They said in Zablokal, how do you say that?
In Zabolkalye.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. In that place, the gas is 350 rubles, $17 a gallon right now.
Damn!
Oh, that's essentially that's a ban. I mean, the Russians can't afford $17 a gallon. I mean, they just simply can't do that.
Man. My God. Man, that's literally like like to fill up my car. That's a third of the price to fill up my car. Basically, right now at the prices that it is, that's insane. Like I wouldn't be able to afford that even. That would be impossible. But I thank you so much for supporting and sharing that with us. I hadn't heard of that one. But that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I hope everybody here in America is enjoying these lower gas prices right now because it looks like the gas prices come down by like maybe 20, 30 cents. It looks like since the oil prices have come down. At least that's what I've filled up today, and it was like a little bit cheaper, maybe 15% cheaper than it was, which is not a whole bunch, but that's better than nothing. At least it didn't keep going up. But I hope y'all enjoy that, though, because from the looks of it, with us going back to war with Iran possibly here in the next few days or weeks, it's probably going to be very short-lived. So, fill up while you can.
Man, it's about to be expensive again, even more expensive than it was, and it only got a little cheaper in the meantime. But with that, it is time for us to move on and into the next super chat we actually have.
So this one goes to Andrew Honeycutt, who puts it to 5. And thank you, Andrew, for that support once again. He
Hey!
said, breaking news, the Hamburglar has just been indicted for cutting the reflecting pool and other stuff, too, in the midst of it. But LSA all the way.
Hey, and LSA all the way! They still haven't found those dastardly people that cut that several 100-foot gash in the reflecting pool, with all the National Guardsmen and all the park rangers around it and all the security cameras that are around there day and night 24/7 because it's Washington, D.C., and it's kind of close to the Capitol. Yet still, they have not shown the man who cut the shit. And I'm just saying, folks, I'm not trying to get into the political side of things, but if they clearly know that someone did it, and they have proof of it, why wouldn't they just show the public the footage? And don't say something. I know someone's about to come in and act like it's a smart answer, be like, because they can't show the evidence. Yes, you can. You can show body cams from cops before a trial. You can publish them for the public to see. Because it is publicly accessible footage if it was gathered by some sort of a government agency. So if they wanted to, they could show it to the public, and they are not, because I'm assuming they probably don't have it. Outside of that, I don't know about the whole algae thing, but one thing I will say is that the whole knife 250 feet along the bottom of the reflecting pool, that sounds kind of like a load of bull hockey to me. But with that, I hope that addresses that well the best I can, in my opinion. And big thanks to you once again for support and help with this channel to keep on running. And it's time for us, it looks like, to get into the Morse code decoders and some live chats. We actually have another super chat here. So what do we got?
And this one right here goes to none other than Drew Kelly. And thank you, Drew, for that $20 support right there. And we do appreciate that very much. He said, I just wanted to send more, except chip inflation has got me, LOL. And chip, we're talking about computer chips, because if you are, I know what you're talking about, because I saw yesterday that little Steam machine thing came out that Valve was releasing, and the price was scaring people a little bit. It's not really Valve's fault, by the way. It's more of the problem with the inflation on all the computer components, if that's what you're talking about. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I would have to say, I thank you for the support, Drew Kelly. And if that is what you're talking about, it's getting expensive. Very expensive. It's tough these days. Tough these days, I tell you. Tough. But a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best we can. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Apple raised their base prices too, from what I heard as well. That's scary because Apple stuff's already expensive. So I think they raised their base prices. But honestly, unfortunately, I can kind of understand why they're doing it. All these different companies, because if the RAM costs as much as a computer used to cost just for the RAM, that's already a bad deal right there. So I hope people are enjoying all these AI cat pictures, because that's apparently going to cost us computers in the future. Apparently, from the looks of it. Also, everybody's saying it's RAM. I think it's the new RAM too. I think it's the DDR5 variant of RAM that's really expensive. I think DDR4 is not that crazy, but everybody wants the new version of RAM because it's the faster exchange speeds and stuff like that. So everybody wants the new one. But apparently, data centers are buying up RAM like crazy from the looks of it. They're buying up all the computer components and they're hoarding them so that way they can create mass surveillance and AI cat pictures. But anyways, though, moving on from that and moving into our quiet down, you AI thing. See, I said that, and AI got mad. The Siri thing on my desk over here started going berserk. It started flashing and making colors and stuff like that. I'm not lying. It went off. Yeah, that thing went off, man. I literally had to hit it. But anyway, so moving on from that crazy stuff with that whole thing going berserk, I'll have to unplug it. We're moving into our live chat questions and our Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight, we have everybody. We have Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Norm Pritchett, Arabelle Garbo, or Royal Fluffness, Kush, Terry Sire, and Brian. And they said the Morse code for today reads, holy moly, China said the South China Sea will rise again. What the, Robert G. Lee? LOTLSA.
And that's the sound of money. Y'all got that dead on the nail. That is the Morse code message of the night. And I gotta say, y'all got that dead on the nail. It was a wild Morse code message with a wilder story behind it. While I was working on the stream today, way at the very early part of it, my YouTube recommend, because I listen to music on YouTube, my YouTube recommend gave me the wildest recommend, and it played it, that I had ever heard. It was Dixieland played by a Chinese folk band. So it's, the song that everyone thinks of when they think of like the Southern United States, but played with Chinese instruments. It was absolutely mental. I played a bit of it for Matthew before the show. I was like, listen to this. I was like, this is hilarious. And so, like, I was singing that. I was like, man, the South. Like, I was thinking, like, how do I make like a pun on that? I was like, the South China Sea will rise again. Robert G. Lee, and then I spelled Robert E. Lee as Robert G. with an XI, and then Lee as LI instead of LEE. Because I was like, man, this is just the funniest thing I've ever seen. I never knew this existed. So that is the reason why that Morse code was the way it was tonight. It was just absolutely just insanity from that song. I was like, I gotta make a joke out of this. But anyways, a big thanks to you all, once again, in Lee Springer Cinema Corps, for getting that correct time and time again, each and every single night. It's absolutely amazing that y'all get the Morse code message correct every single night, and it's truly an amazing thing. And so, a huge shout out to all of y'all once again. And with that, it actually looks like we have another super chat to get here to, folks. And so, what do we got?
And this one goes to Kerberos3 yet again. And thank you very much, Kerberos, for that second support of the night. This time, a $20 super chat. We do appreciate that support. Kerberos said, a PSA for the enforcers in chat. If you did not know, you can get fuel stabilizer to store gas for 6 months. Stock up now, and sorry last minute. You know, I didn't even know that existed, to be honest with you. I mean, I've always left gas in the can for like over the whole winter. Like back in Alabama when there was a yard when we were younger that we had to upkeep and stuff like that. I put gas in the storage room in a normal gas canister. We'd leave it back there for months over the entire winter when the grass wasn't growing. We'd get it right back out and just put it straight into the mower. So maybe we were tearing it up that way. Maybe that's why the thing was choppy. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, that's actually a pretty smart move. I didn't even know that thing existed either. Hey, you know, that one mower that we had, that thing did sputter out and die kind of fast. So like maybe that was the reason why. It was feeding on crappy gas that had been stored for months improperly. But I do thank you incredibly for the support, Kerberos. And I will have to see about getting some fuel stabilizers, maybe a couple of jerry cans as well. But really, in reality, though, to store any real amount, I would like, my car has a 25-gallon tank on it, so it'd have to take 25 gallons at a time. And that 25 gallons, even how I drive it right now, only lasts like maybe 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks. And so I would have to store like hundreds of gallons of gas in my garage, which could be an issue. Like if a fire started, it could explode. So I think I'll have to take the risk that the fuel might run out, because otherwise storing it might be a difficult thing to do. But I do thank you incredibly for the support and helping this channel to keep it running, Kerberos, and helping this thing to keep on running. And also, Kerberos said, without stability, you'll wreck the... Yep, that's what happened. Like, that's what happened. That's the answer to why that would happen.
That explains it right there. And outside of the gas stability problem, like storing gas for a long time, I remember like back in the day, we used to have like a pressure washer and like, you know, the small engines and stuff like that. We would leave those over the winter and you'd come back around to use them in the summer. And half the time the things wouldn't even crank. Like you'd go pull the starter cord, like crank the thing up. It wouldn't even start and it'd just be dead like after the winter. I think maybe the fuel injectors or fuel lines or something like that got clogged or something and maybe caked up in the line. It'll just ruin them every time. Like, and our parents just go buy a new one instead of having it fixed. So it happened almost every year.
Man, I remember we would always be like, man, what the hell happened? It was running fine. Like when we started. Oh my God, dude. It was because of that. Dude, that's honestly mind blowing. Like this is like, we never knew about this. No one ever told us about this ever in our lives. And the solution was always when the little motor would break down, just go buy a whole new pressure washer, which was very inefficient. But that's what they do basically every single year. And we were always like, dang, these things are so unreliable. It turns out probably the gas was the problem. But huge thanks to you for sharing that with us, Kerberos. From here on, I'm going to have to remember that and know about that when I have my own pressure washer or whenever I have the place that needs one, because this one certainly doesn't. But a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to VHGYUUNNBGNNH. And thank you very much for that $10 support, by the way. They said, what happened to the mines in the strait?
Oh, they're still there. It's like they've demined some of them. Actually, to read you the report from today, This is a report by the UKMTO. The maritime security level threat in the Strait of Hormuz has increased to substantial following attacks on merchant vessels. Mariners are advised of the existence of mines and should expect naval presence as clearance operations continue. Mariners should also expect congestion through transit routes and VHF hailing from naval forces to support free flow. Now, one important thing that's also been stated is that mariners are advised that the southern route has been expanded to accommodate simultaneous inbound and outbound traffic. So that's showing us that apparently the demining works are starting from the north moving south. Well, from the south moving north. So apparently they've been able to widen out this shipping lane a little bit and clear out maybe about another 2 mile swath northbound in a line east to west in this area that would allow for ships to pass each other, one going east and the other heading west, using different lanes of traffic. So the mine clearing is going quite slow, from what we can tell at that rate. So the mines are still there, and we're still actively trying to clear them out, but it's very slow and arduous work. So I hope that it does answer the question incredibly well. I hope that's basically down on the nail of what you were looking for there. And a big thanks to you for support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
Also, for everybody asking, I see a couple of people asking for updates on Iraq. Really, nothing major happening that's like headline worthy right now. But there's still a whole bunch of security forces swarming all over the place in Iraq. I did hear a early report that maybe they've opened the gates to the green zone again, but I think they might have opened the gates to the green zone to let more security forces in there. So it's still an active situation. We still don't really know what's going on inside of Iraq. And also, it's notable that nobody's issued any official statements. That's also very notable right there. We haven't heard anything official from the Iraqi government. They're being oddly quiet, which indicates something's up. And also, the U.S. hasn't said anything about it. Nobody said anything. It's just like they're pretending like nothing's happening, which is a little bit strange in itself. But moving on to our next super chat here, this one's going to go to none other than Mark Ead yet again, and thank you very much, Mark, for the second support of the night, all the way from New Zealand. That's a long way for the New Zealand monies to travel. And he put in a 50. He said Costco chickens and coffee filter funding, boys, and peel one from the chat, gentlemen, and LOTLSA in New Zealand from the South.
And a big shout out to New Zealand in the South. And I got to give you a big shout out once again, Marquis, for that incredible support. We thank you greatly. And I got to say that Costco chickens, they're great. They're wonderful. I love Costco chickens. And coffee filters? Oh, you remember that, actually. Like, I almost totally forgot about the whole coffee filter thing where the coffee filters kept disappearing. And then one time I just misplaced them and forgot where they were. That was the last time that happened. And now I have plenty of coffee filters, and now the coffee machine's broken, and I still need to send that to the warranty repair people. But beyond that, though, I thank you incredibly for the support. And we will make sure to peel another one from the chat in your honor, Marquis. And long live the Lee Spring Army. And what do we got from the live chat, Matthew?
And this one, in honor of Mark's super chat, is going to go to Vollinger, who said, "Do you think the coup, referring to Iraq, was already ready to go, and the Iranians greenlit it now because of the recent strikes between them and the U.S.?"
I would say, man, probably not. This appears to largely be some sort of an internal Iraqi situation from the ground up. It probably has a lot to do with what's going on with Iran, but I have a feeling it didn't really have a lot of outside coordination with anybody. While Iraq is kind of slightly friendly to us, they're not extremely friendly to us, and we really don't communicate with the Iraqi government in a really in-depth way, and from what we understand, they don't do that with us either. So this was probably something that happened entirely from the ground up because of internal Iraqi governmental concerns about the stability of their government, or someone attempting to overthrow the government, which led to the action that we're seeing right now. We still don't really know the full story, at least yet, on what's happening, but that's what I would think. But Matthew, what do you think?
Me personally, I think this seems to be something that was pre-planned, but the catch is the reason why I'm having a hard time going too much deeper into analysis is because we still don't really know who's behind this, and until we get an official statement from the Iraqi government or from the U.S. or somebody, we won't really know what's really happening. Like we see, there's obviously an intimidation factor to this. There's helicopters flying around. There's tanks going down the streets, allegedly arresting individual people, and then we're hearing gunfire break out like there's a battle, like the Battle of Baghdad going on in the streets, and then the green zones like a pure chaos. So it's just kind of hard to tell. Like I feel like it could be something involving like a pro-Iranian situation, but I just have no way to back that up right now. So I really can't say that with certainty. So honestly, I'd have to say I'm going to have to take the cop-out answer here. I'm just going to have to wait and see tomorrow if we get any official statements, because I'm 50-50. It could be either way. It could be bad for the United States or it could be good. I just can't tell.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And so with that, I hope we've both addressed that live chat well. And a big thanks to you so much once again, Marky, for that unbelievably amazing and very generous support and helping this channel to keep it running. And I hope we addressed that live chat the best we could. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Travis Murray, and thank you, Travis, for the 5. He said, just for having to pronounce that name.
Hey, I did not thank you so much for the support. I thank you for appreciating our attempt at pronunciation. We hardly ever get any of them right. I might be getting closer to getting right on a few of them, but it's not even close still. And I thank you so much for appreciating the efforts that we do to try and get them right, considering that our little brains are just from Alabama. We don't know a lot. We don't know a lot, but we know something. Big thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a 2 from RCH Technologies yet again, and thank you, good sir, for the 3rd or 4th support. He said, BNSF, North Central Texas, sub in scale.
Well, that is really neat. There's the BNSF division map right here. And I'm trying to find that one. There's the Panhandle one. I'm guessing it's kind of like around, like you're talking about the area kind of between like Fort Worth and Amarillo, like around the Red River Valley or something like that. That is really
You
cool.
say Amarillo.
Amarillo. Or
Man,
Amarillo.
Amarillo, man. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Amarillo. Like Amarillo, man. Man,
but it's a Spanish city. It's a Spanish city. It was founded as a Mexican city, see?
Man, it's
in New
Texas.
Spain. Well, yeah, but I mean, if you say the real pronunciation, like the Spanish pronunciation, it's probably Amarillo. But in the English Anglicanized pronunciation, it's probably Amarilla. You know what I mean?
Man, you know what you should do when you go to Texas?
What should I do?
Don't mess with them.
I don't really like messing with people anyway, so that'd easy. Like that'd be easy to do.
Man, you know when a state's motto is "Don't mess with Texas." It's like, who hurt you? It's like, who hurt
Man,
you? It's like, why is this your motto? It's like, why are we starting from a point of defense here? Like, what happened like early on to cause this?
The Civil War. Like
Oh
that's
well, I mean, that might explain it.
You know, Texas was actually the last state to surrender at the end of the Civil War.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's why you don't mess with them.
No, I think they just traumatized. Don't mess with this, damn it! Don't do it, man, because you're the last holdout. Oh man, it's crazy. But beyond that, though, I would have to say BNSF. That's a very interesting choice. I actually have a BNSF Gevo, like an HO scale one. But you know, like I gotta say, like my honest opinion about BNSF, it's a really cool railroad. I just don't really like the orange, like the orange paint job they do. There's a lot of orange paint jobs out there that look really good, but to me, I don't know. It's just something about BNSF orange. It's like either too orange or it's like too bright or something. I don't know. I wish they had kept the Santa Fe war bonnets going. Let me see if I can show y'all a Santa Fe Gevo here real quick. Like one of these, like those look so good. I love these so much. Like they're neat. And look, Maddie's got breaking news right on time, folks. It's really crazy how that happens. But I wish they had kept a paint job like this or kept the Burlington Northerns because I really like that. It's not bad paint job though, like the BNSF one. It's just that I like the classics of their merger railroads, their fallen flags. Those were really cool. But it looks like we got breaking news right on time. Would y'all believe it? What do we got, Matthew?
No, this is actually like legit breaking news right now. In the midst of the situation with Iraq, also by the way, please don't play those videos, but it's not about that. But in the midst of the situation happening in Iraq, by the way, we are currently seeing that the Iranian government is currently sending a plane to Baghdad in the midst of this chaos. It looks like an Iranian government aircraft is just about to land in Baghdad literally right now. So a big shout out to our viewer in the chat, by the way, Mr. ZZX, for that good shout out right there. But we are seeing that apparently it's just about to land. It appears to be an Iran government operated by Mirage Airlines aircraft that's currently going there right now. And you should be able to see it. It looks like Flight Radar might be having a bit of a problem though right now. It looks like it's glitching. But it's about to land.
Come on, come on, come on. This one. Oh, no.
No.
This one.
There you go.
It came from Tehran.
What
That's
does this
interesting.
mean?
It looks like it came straight from the capital of Iran. So whatever's happening, some Iranian government officials are showing up. That's interesting. I think that's
Yeah,
once
that
again
is
leading
interesting.
into the idea that we had that this is a coup.
It's like, like just speculating here. Nobody take my words as like I'm saying this for certain, but it's like, what if the coup was pro-Iranian that just took place and they've just seized control of most of the government, and now Iran's showing up and they're going to start saying, "Oh, we've taken over Iraq now. We're in charge," and now they're showing up to say that. It's like, why would they go there in the midst of this chaos unless they were involved in it in some way or another? It's like that's very weird. They're literally sending a government plane to Baghdad like that.
Well, they're not gonna the Iranian officials aren't gonna show up in Baghdad and be like, we've taken over, we run this bee. They're going there right now to tell the Iraqi people that just took charge. Okay, so here's our position with y'all. This is our agreements, like as far as foreign policy and diplomacy is concerned. Also, we would love for y'all to say this on television, like this script, if y'all could, to say that we're aligned with each other and y'all are now allies. It could be something like that. Like this is probably a governmental team that's going there with a whole checklist of things that they're trying to make sure this new Iraqi government that they support might say and might do. But they're not ever going to run the show directly. It'll always be from behind the scenes.
Or maybe another possibility, maybe one that's not so extreme as what I just mentioned a moment ago. Maybe they're sending this plane there to pick up the people that were arrested and take them back to Iran for like asylum or something.
Oh, that could be. Yeah, that could be as well. But then again, these people are Sunnis, though. They're not Shia Islamists. So would the Iranians take him, considering that they're not even what the Islamic regime considers to be the true faith of Islam, which is Shia, not Sunni? Would they take him?
I don't know. Like it's just there's just still so many unknowns about this. It's kind of hard to say like what's going on. But we do know this though. It's weird though that Iran's sending a plane, a government aircraft, to Baghdad, which right now is an absolute chaotic hellhole. Right now, it's weird that they're choosing to go there right in the middle of this chaos. That's definitely strange. That's pretty much all we could really say for certain.
Yeah, I would agree. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
So with that, jumping into our live chat questions now, our first live chat question, and once again, a huge shout out to everybody for the super chat support. We do appreciate it very, very much. That does keep our channel running, by the way. And moving into the live chat to see what everybody else was asking in the questions, we have one here from none other than TS Actual, who said, will the developments of today mean that Israel is going to go hard in Lebanon?
I think that they're probably not for now because they got into a new ceasefire again this morning, and so they're saying for now there's a possibility that there could be a deal coming out of it. They're probably going to wait for Hezbollah to shoot at them, which is guaranteed, or they're going to break the ceasefire themselves and bomb Hezbollah, which is also guaranteed. It's just really a matter of time. But I don't think they're going to be going all in right now. They're going to at least give the ceasefire its fair dues for a couple of hours before they start going all in. So I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, we were on to the next one.
And our next live chat goes to Dylan, who said, what percentage of Russian refineries are operational versus sanctioned?
Generally most of them inside of Western Russia. I think it's something like 40% of them at this point have been knocked out. But that's not the majority of them. That's actually still a minority of them, but still a very large number. And the remaining 60% are either operating at reduced capacity or they're operating completely fine and they really haven't been hit. So I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from what I know. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to none other than Bob. He said, my question is, does Iran seriously believe the U.S. isn't capable of destroying their country militarily?
The Iranians know that in a protracted war, if they didn't have any leverage, the United States would destroy them. However, it's the control of the Strait of Hormuz that causes economic damage to the United States that would be significant enough that the U.S. wouldn't be able to destroy Iran before the U.S. economy was destroyed by the Iranians. So that's really more so what they're playing on right now, and that's why I keep, emphasizing heavily on air that for American interests, we must break their blockade, because if we do not break their blockade, they have the ability to economically cripple us where we have to meet their demands instead of it being the other way around. So I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a super chat this time from Carebros3 once again, and thank you, Carebros, for the $10 support. And he said, but enforcers, multiple people in the chat earlier were saying corruption cleanup, get your facts straight. Towards the enforcers are always right fun, and extra from the chat, please. And honestly, like, I get the fact, like, some people might not buy the whole idea that it's a coup. Like, that's fair enough. But at the same time, though, I mean, as much as I'm trying to, like, hedge my statements by saying we don't know all the details yet, so we really can't say anything with certainty, the people out there saying it's definitely not a coup, that's also not a wise thing to say because they don't know that either. As much as I don't know for a certainty that it is a coup, they don't know that it's not a coup. We just simply don't have enough facts right now. So I would agree with you, Carabaros. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would agree as well. Like, we don't have enough facts to say it for certain, but it is, in my opinion, highly likely a coup. I mean, most of the facts that we have at this point largely are more so leaning in that direction than the other, where it's just some law enforcement action. And it is quite like that's one hell of a law enforcement action. Like, that would be like, for example, the president of the United States just arresting multiple senators and representatives in the Congress out of the blue one night and rolling the whole U.S. Army into Washington, D.C. to do it. That'd be really weird. So big thanks to you for support, Kerberos3, and helping this channel to keep them running. And with that, we're on the next one.
Also, a big shout to Stuart Schmidtke, 663, who put in a $20 support. And thank you very much, Stuart, for that. I think Stuart was the one earlier saying that he was having a problem putting that in right there. So thank you, Stuart, for persisting and trying to put that super chat through. Sometimes it's a VPN issue. Sometimes YouTube doesn't like the VPN and it won't let people put in a super chat. But I don't think that was Stuart's issue. I think it might have been maybe a forbidden word or something, or maybe just a glitch, possibly. But thank you very much, Stuart, for that support and persisting. But Enforcer, what say you?
And we thank you greatly for persisting and supporting the channel. Every bit of support, it means a lot to us, and it also helps us to keep this thing running. So a humongous thanks to you for persevering and supporting the channel, because it means a great deal to us. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 10 from Mike555 Mike, and he said, I think they're extracting the officials out, and hopefully not for escalation inside of Iraq, but prayers up.
Maybe I would hope that I hope that Iraq doesn't start to become unstable and we lose Iraq, because while Iraq isn't exactly a diehard U.S. ally, it would also not be great to see them go from kind of in the middle in neutrality to becoming pro-Iranian overnight. That would be a very bad position for us right now. And I would hope that that would not happen. But a big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And hopefully we'll hear that good things happen in Iraq once we get the clear story out tomorrow, and not a whole bunch of BS like we're thinking might have happened. So with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Boss Dog Mining and Prospecting, and thank you, good sir, for the 5. He said, hypothetically, what chain of events would have to happen in order for Putin to be desperate enough to order a nuclear strike?
Probably a full-blown war with NATO, to where tactical nuclear weapons have already been exchanged and the NATO forces are still advancing rapidly into Russia. That would probably be the case where nuclear weapons of a strategic type would probably end up getting used. Outside of that, I just don't really see strategic nuclear weapons being used in any scenario commonly. And as far as tactical nuclear strikes, the way that tactical nuclear strikes would be used, just to say nuclear in general, even the smallest form of it, is if Russia enters a war with NATO, NATO starts pushing him back, and NATO isn't willing to negotiate. They're starting to say, it's going to be an ultimate surrender. It's an unconditional surrender or nothing. Then the Russians will probably use a tactical nuclear weapon. So I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from what I would think would happen right now. And a big thanks to you once again for the support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
And we also have a 5 from Slinger, and thank you, Slinger, for that 5. He said, I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese and a large soda, and thank you, an LOC.
Isn't that
And
order from
according-
that GTA San Andreas? It's something like...
Yeah, according to North Korean propaganda, that's the average American devil's order at the fast food joint, according to North Korean propaganda, because those bloody Americans, those devils and their fatness at the drive-through, that's according to North Korea. That's what they say. Or you eat birds from trees that have been poached. But Enforcer, what say you?
They're eating the birds, which is here on Tuesday. But I gotta say, a big thanks to your support, Slinger. And I gotta say, I got 7 Mac 11s, about 8:38. Man, you know that rap song?
Say what?
Man, I got 7 Mac 11s, about 8:38s, 9 9s, 10 Mac 10s. The shit's never in. Have you
No,
ever
I never heard that.
Bro, man, honestly, man, someone took that rap song and they made a meme out of it. They put the rap song to the beat of the Thomas the Tank Engine theme song, and dude, it was like dead on, like beat for beat, like the Thomas the Tank Engine song was actually like the melody to the. It was hilarious. But anyways, a big thanks to you so much once again for support, Slinger, and a big thank you to you for supporting the channel. And long live the Leaf Spring Army. And with that, it appears that we're on to the third to last question of the night.
All right, so our next live chat, the third to last, goes to John Rempel. He said, is Russia shipping oil to India and buying fuel from them?
From what we know, I think India actually distanced itself a while ago, earlier this year, from Russian oil purchases. So I don't really think India is in the process of buying Russian oil that often anymore. Um, so I would have to say I don't think they have any sort of reciprocal trade going, because India is definitely not selling refined fuels to Russia, because they generally want to avoid the ire of the U.S. and sanctions in that regard. And as far as importing Russian oil, we haven't really seen them do that recently either, from what we've been able to report. Although that might be incorrect by this point, something might have changed, and we didn't catch up on that yet. So I hope that does address it the best it can from what we know at the moment right now. And with that, we're on the second to last question of the night.
Also, by the way, do you want to see how bad the fire is at Slavyansk? Do you want to really see how bad this is? The oil rain clouds that are starting? Like, do you really want to know?
No, actually, I do. Like, let's
Yeah,
see it.
go click on this, by the way. This is a time-lapse satellite view of the Slavyansk oil refinery catching fire and creating those oil rain clouds. There it is, right? You're about to see it start. There is the
Oh,
smoke
there's the
starting.
wisp.
Yeah, look at this. It's going all the way down. Look at this. That is
Dang.
crazy, man. It's literally reaching all the way down. Almost, it's floating almost to Tuops, almost, which is also a place of another oil disaster right down there in Tuops. They don't need any extra smoke.
Man, that is insane, man. The Ukrainians gave them all the smoke, literally, like every single bit of it. Wild right there. That's actually a crazy view. I rarely have ever seen that before on any Russian strike. That kind of a view from a satellite. So that was really cool. But anyways, with that, we are on to one more super chat before we get on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Mr. Normal. He puts in a 3. He said, "Don't be frontin' son, no seeds on the bun."
I don't know what that's supposed to. I don't know the reference. Yeah, I don't know the reference there. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Scott Morton, who said, "What about the War Powers Act?" And right now, the War Powers Act is more. I think you might be referring to the War Powers Resolution that was currently going through the Senate. The vote got changed at around, like, I think it was like late at night, like a few days ago, where it was okay to go back to war with Iran. But it's a strange thing. It could change at any minute. It's like one of those quantum resolutions. It could flip. It could be either one, depending on whether or not you're observing it or not. But Enforcer, what say you?
Well, I'm at the answer to that about as good as I go. Like, it's a very confusing sort of a situation, and it could go either way at this point. But I hope we addressed that the best we could. And with that, we have one more super chat to get to before we get to the final question of the night. So what do we got?
This one goes to Kerberos3 once again, who puts in a 10. And thank you, Kerberos, once more for that support. They said, on food, did you hear how much other countries here for Olympics are bringing ranch back to their countries, and Japan loving unlimited chips and salsa? They were confused by unlimited refills.
Yeah, actually, the Japanese were confused. Actually, a lot of people from around the world have been confused by unlimited refills, because in most countries, you have to pay for refills. The United States is one of the few countries on the planet that gives free refills as generally a standard most of the time. In most places. And also another thing that's crazy is that they were surprised by the unlimited chips and salsa, that they're able to get that for free just by sitting down in the restaurant. They don't have to pay for that. And they're also pretty surprised. They're actually surprised by a lot of things. Also ranch, which a lot of people around the world don't have. But it's just really neat to see a lot of people coming from around the world that have never gone out of their way to visit the United States, and they actually kind of find out that the United States is a really cool place in its own ways. And also, a lot of the things they were told about the United States as far as the stereotypes go aren't true, which I always think is good to spread around. But a big thanks to you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, it actually looks like we now have a queue of super chats that we'll be getting into. So with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to none other than Crispy, who put in a $10 Crispy support. And thank you, good Sir Crispy, for throwing in that support right there. And we do appreciate that very much. That support does matter to the channel. And we appreciate Crispy for always throwing that in. And Enforcer, what say you?
And a big thanks to you for the support, Crispy. We are greatly appreciative of that, and we thank you massively for that support. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Mr. Normal once again. He said, the song, dude. I need a double cheeseburger and hold the lettuce, and don't be frontin' son, no seeds on the bun, LOL.
Oh, I think it was. I haven't heard the whole song. Like, I only heard the first part, like the first little bit. But I do thank you incredibly for the support, helping the channel to keep it running, and letting me know what the reference is. I'm goofy like that. I only listen to little snippets of those songs, like the meme ones. I don't ever listen to the whole thing. But still, a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $5 support from Alexander Rodriguez, and thank you, Alexander, for the support. He said, do you see the U.S. going back into Iraq if they become a pro-Iran regime?
Not in the immediate future. I don't think so. Because that would probably be a very unpopular decision to go back into Iraq and fully reinvade the country and try and install another government again, which is the one that would have just been overthrown. Well, to put it another way, the government that we installed back in 2003 in Iraq would have been overthrown today if it was overthrown, which we're probably going to find out tomorrow. And so it's probably going to be pretty unpopular to say we're now going to reinvade the country to prop up and install another new government. That probably wouldn't be a politically viable option here in the United States. So I would say probably not. We're probably just going to leave them to their own devices at that point. But a big thanks to your support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Flamingo yet again. They said, and on with that, we're on to the final question of the night.
We're almost, actually. We're getting there. We're very close. But more and more super chats keep coming in. We're greatly thankful for them. And it's helping us to stave off that final question of the night, at least for now. But a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that well. And we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Travis Murray, who put in a 2. He said, Notorious Big.
B.I.G. That is the guy who sang that song, like the 7 Mac 11s, 838s, 9910 Mac 10s, the shit's never in. He was the guy who sang that song. But a big thanks to your
That
support.
dude really loved it when you called him Big Papa.
I like it when you call me Big Papa. Man, but anyways.
He wasn't looking at Diddy when he was saying that, was he?
Oh, hey, yo, man. I like it when he gets that baby oil.
Oh,
man. Anyways, a big thanks to you once again for the support. And we're on to the next one.
we also have a 2 from Game Theory, who said, plans after the show tonight. For me personally, after the show tonight, honestly, I'm probably going to grab something to eat. I'm not notoriously big, but I could go for a burger or something out of the fridge over here. But unfortunately, what say you?
I'm probably going to take it easy because, to be entirely honest with y'all, I don't know what it is. I think it's the wildfire smoke around here or something. I have been feeling kind of like nauseous most of the day today, and I've had to deal with that the whole show. So I'm probably just going to take it easy, maybe play a video game and eat the rest of the food that I got earlier that I didn't eat really before the show. I'm probably going to do that. But a big thanks to your support and help this channel to keep it running. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, it does look like we're on to the final question of the night. And so, who was the last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And a viewer is longtime lurker who said, I found out today that this is the time of the year that refineries start stockpiling winter heating oil. And what do you think these strikes will impact the coming winter for Russia?
It's probably going to impact Russia in many ways. For one, electricity isn't going to be available for most places to generally stay warm during the winter. And not only that, gas, which hasn't been hit that heavily, which is usually used for heating in Russia, will probably not be impacted too much. We've seen some gas processing plants here and there in Russia get hit, most of them in occupied Crimea. But one thing that the Ukrainians have been very kind about, for the larger part from what we can tell so far, is that they haven't hit any of the heating oil or natural gas distribution facilities. It looks like they're largely just hitting refineries that are involved in refined gas and diesel production. So it might not affect the heating side of things in the winter too badly, but it is going to affect quite literally everything else in the Russian economy, most likely including the prices of, say, heating oil or natural gas heating in the winter, which a lot of Russians rely on. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, folks, we've reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to cover this news for all of y'all once again tonight. And of course, we will be seeing you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world and also run the Sunday night fundraiser. And if there is a shorter video to be made tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. Let me check this really quick. Let me check this. Hold up, folks. I gotta say, I gotta make sure to say this, because in case we're ever confused, we can always go back and reference this. So tomorrow is my video day. So if there is a shorter video to be made, I'll be the one making the shorter video tomorrow. And there might be a good chance that one could come out. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Slava Ukraini, Herom Slava. Long live the Least Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, we will see you all tomorrow on the next Nightly War News stream at our usual time at 10 p.m. Eastern. And also, by the way, I'm trying to get to my page here to see something. Let's see here. Let me get to it real quick. There we go. Well, a huge shout out to the almost 155,000 people that were here by the end of the stream tonight. That is a whopping amount of people. And we're glad y'all chose us as your news source tonight. And we hope to see you all tomorrow once again, maybe for a short war video, but definitely for a stream. And of course, thank you all for joining us once again. And of course, Slava Ukraine. Hear 'em, Slava. Get some rest and good night.